Chapter 1037. Xiao Chen nodded slightly and didn't care too much about it. In any case, the camera could only see if he had disguised his face. As for other aspects, it couldn't detect at all. Seeing that no one had any objections, Jia Jinyan finished recording the scores and announced a 15-minute break before continuing the match. The second match was between Jia Tuyao and Jia Kumu. After the two of them stepped onto the stage, they first put on a show for a while, exchanging a few moves with each other. After that, Jia Kumu was blasted off the stage by a palm strike, and he even let out a shrill howl. Just like that, the fight ended hastily. The third match was the same. Jia Huiyan very easily knocked out Jia Ruijing with a palm strike and naturally got a point. The total time of the two matches didn't exceed 15 minutes. Jia Jinyan seemed to have already expected such a result. He didn't express any dissatisfaction or blame. He just calmly recorded all the scores and then announced the start of the fourth match. Xiao Chen didn't care about this kind of behavior. In any case, no matter how his opponent did it, the final winner would be none other than Jia Muzhen. Therefore, he simply turned a blind eye to it. Besides, judging from Jia Jinyan's character in the previous matches, as long as he had the means to get points, he basically didn't care about the source of the points. Therefore, even if he protested this time, he probably wouldn't accept it. The fourth match was between Jia Muzhen and Jia Shirlei. Before the match began, Jia Muzhen had already warmed up his hands and feet. Hearing the start of the match, he came to the stage. He first nodded to Uncle Gui, then bowed to Jia Jinyan, and then stood there with his eyes closed, quietly waiting for his opponent to go on the stage. His expression was calm, as if there was no pressure at all. "Young Master Muzhen, I'm very weak. You have to be lenient." Jia Shirlei walked up the stage step by step, slowly strolled in front of Jia Muzhen, and said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Don't say such useless nonsense." Jia Muzhen opened his eyes and lightly glanced at him. He operated his mental cultivation method and revealed the strength of a martial general peak. He said in a deep voice, "I'll give you a chance to make the first move. This way, even if you lose, you won't lose too much face." Hee. "In that case, it would be impolite for me to refuse. Many thanks for young Master Mu Sen's kindness." Jia Shirlei smiled treacherously. Without saying anything more, he quickly sent a palm strike at Jia Muzhen's chest with 100% of his strength. It seemed like he wanted to directly kill him. "Good timing. You're half a step to Martial King realm?" Jia Muzhen lightly shouted. Then, he was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Jia Shirlei's level to be more than half a level higher than his. However, it was too late for him to dodge now. Jia Muzhen could only meet force with force and barely exchange a palm strike with him. Boom! The two fierce martial chi instantly collided with each other, releasing a powerful shockwave. The arena was immediately filled with smoke. However, Xiao Chen's six senses were sharp. He could clearly see that this time, Jia Muzhen had underestimated his opponent's strength and suffered a bit of a loss. Sure enough, after the smoke dispersed, Jia Shirlei only took a small step back. His complexion changed. However, Jia Muzhen frowned and took a few steps back. With a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His complexion was very unsightly. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. Hee, young Master Mu's son, I thought that since you spoke so confidently, your strength should be above mine. In the end, you're really just a martial general consummation expert. It seems that these days, without the help of your family, you haven't been doing well outside. Ha ha ha. Jia Shirlei immediately ridiculed. However, his voice was a bit hoarse. It seemed like he didn't have enough confidence. Although he had a slight advantage, under the two of them fighting head-on, he didn't feel good either. After all, the gap between their levels was not big. They were almost evenly matched. I really didn't expect that you're already half a step to Martial King. It seems that Jia Tuyao has been training you a lot. I presume that you should be the highest level among the branch family disciples, right? Jia Muzin rubbed his chest and said with a helpless expression. At this moment, the blood in Jia Muzin's chest was stagnant. He felt very uncomfortable. He knew that Jia Shirley had also suffered some minor injuries. However, it was obvious that Jia Shirley's injuries were lighter. Jia Shirley's recovery was faster than his. Therefore, he could only say a few more words, hoping to buy some time by chatting. Hee, just now you told me to talk less nonsense. Why are you talking so much now? This isn't your style. Jia Shirley quickly finished adjusting his breathing. He had guessed Jia Muzin's intention. Without giving him a chance, he slapped his palm towards Jia Muzin's chest again. He sneered and said, "Is this all you've got? You're not worthy of young Master Tu Yao's help. I can deal with you directly." Looking at Jia Shirley's ferocious face approaching him, Jia Muzin sighed slightly. Originally, he wanted to win this match with his own strength. He didn't expect that his first opponent would be so difficult to deal with. Seeing that Jia Shirley's palm was already in front of him, Jia Muzin could only brace himself and operate his mental cultivation method. He pushed his palm out. He felt that Xiao Chen would definitely help him. He just didn't know how he would help. Ha ha ha. Jia Muzin, have you lost your mind? Obviously, you're not as powerful as me. Jia Shirley laughed proudly and pushed his palm out. Just when he was about to say something sarcastic, he suddenly opened his mouth and stood still. He was still in the posture of pushing his palm out, but there was still a long distance between him and Jia Muzin. The martial qi that he had released had all dissipated, as if someone had pressed the stop button. It was a strange scene. Jia Muzin was startled at first, but soon realized that it was Xiao Chen who had made a move. In order to avoid killing Jia Shirley directly, he hurriedly took back 80% of his martial qi, quietly changed his angle, and slapped his palm on Jia Shirley's shoulder. Bang! Jia Shirley, who was standing still, was hit by the palm. Without any surprise, he was sent flying, drawing a parabola in the air, and heavily fell on the ground outside the arena. The winner had been decided. It was quiet. The spectators on the grandstand were all dumbfounded, especially Jia Tuyao and Jia Raijing. They were very proud just now, thinking that Jia Muzin would definitely lose this round. They didn't expect that Jia Shirley would suddenly make a stupid move, allowing Jia Muzin to reverse the situation. I declare that the winner of this round is young Master Jia Muzin. Uncle Gui quickly got off the stage and ran to Jia Shirley, who was lying on the ground. After carefully examining him, he found that Jia Shirley had just fainted, and his life was not in danger. Uncle Gui immediately returned to the stage, raised Jia Muzin's right hand, and loudly announced, "Wait!" Jia Tuyao immediately stood up, and fiercely glared at Jia Muzin. He turned his head and said to Jia Jinyan, "Grandpa, I seriously suspect that Jia Muzin used some despicable trick in the previous round. Otherwise, Jia Shirley would not have suddenly stopped his attack. Grandpa, please order a thorough investigation of this matter. If it is true, I suggest that Jia Muzin be directly disqualified from the competition." Chapter 1038. Young Master Tuyao, are you doubting my ability as a referee? Uncle Gui's face immediately darkened, and he said coldly, "As a referee, I was the closest to them just now. If Jia Muzin secretly used a hidden weapon against Jia Shirley, do you think I couldn't see it?" At this moment, Uncle Gui was extremely dissatisfied. Jia Tuyao's words were too harsh. Even though Jia Shirley was on his side, he couldn't win every time, could he? He had been working hard in the Jia family for dozens of years. How could he frame a young man? Jia Tuyao was startled. He had been trying to defend Jia Shirley, and didn't notice that his words had offended Uncle Gui. He hurriedly explained, "This. Uncle Gui, I didn't mean that, I just thought, Tuyao, you don't have to say it. The fact is in front of us, Jia Muzin won without a doubt." Before Jia Tuyao finished, Jia Jinyan directly waved his hand, interrupted him, and said blandly, "All right, let's continue. Now, the first round of the knockout competition is over. Next, the 4 winners of the first round will draw lots again to fight against each other in groups. This. Jia Tiao felt wronged, but since his grandpa had said so, he dared not to refute anymore. He sat down unwillingly, gave Jia Rijing a look, and asked him to carry Jia Shirley back to the side, who was in a coma. He planned to ask Jia Shirley about the reason when he woke up. Jia Jinyan glanced at Jia Tiao, then slowly sat down. In fact, he also felt that what had just happened was a bit strange. When Jia Shirley suddenly paused, Jia Jinyan did feel a slight fluctuation, but when he tried to trace it, he couldn't find any trace, and the audience didn't notice anything strange either. Because of this, Jia Jinyan didn't say it directly, but told his trusted subordinates to form groups as soon as possible, while he secretly kept an eye on Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin walked down the stage with a lingering fear, quickly ran to Xiao Qin, and said in a low voice with a helpless look, "Xiao Qin, fortunately, you were here. Otherwise, I would have been defeated by Jia Shirley. I didn't expect that a member of a branch family could be even more powerful than me. How shameful. There's nothing to be ashamed of, as long as we can win the competition." Xiao Qin patted Jia Muzin's shoulder and said with a smile, "Now that our points are far ahead, if nothing unexpected happens, the successor to the patriarch position will be none other than you." From Xiao Qin's point of view, Jia Muzin had already seized the throne of the successor. The others were simply foils. This match was just the icing on the cake. But I'm more likely to encounter Jia Huiyan and Jia Tiao. Even Jia Shirley has become so powerful, I guess those two won't be easy to deal with. Jia Muzin shook his head in disappointment. He did not feel the slightest joy of victory in his heart. Instead, he felt a lot of pressure. "Don't worry, I won't give them a chance to make a move. After you get on the stage, just send them flying with a kick." Xiao Chen's expression remained unchanged as he instructed in a low voice. Since Jia Huiyan was already a Demon King Great Perfection expert, Xiao Chen estimated that Jia Tiao wouldn't be too bad. Just in case, he intended to let Jia Muzin finish the battle quickly so that those two wouldn't have a chance to take advantage of him. At this time, the constantly changing text on the big screen had stopped, showing the name list of the second knockout round. Jia Renzhong came over, pointed at the big screen and said, "Young Master Muzin, look, the results of the draw for the next match have come out. You will be fighting against Jia Huiyan, and I will be fighting against Jia Tiao." Sure enough. Jia Muzin looked at the big screen and sighed slightly. "What a pity, if only I was fighting against young Master Muzin, then you could get one more point." Jia Renzhong said with a wry smile. He was already very lucky to be able to win a match just now. He didn't even dare to think about the following matches. He only hoped to pave the way for Jia Muzin, but unfortunately, this draw didn't give him this opportunity. "Renzhong, this match, why don't you forfeit?" Jia Muzin thought for a while and suddenly said. "Forfeit?" Jia Renzhong was stunned, and his face became even gloomier. "You're right, Jia Tuyao and I are not at the same level. If I compete against him, I will only humiliate myself. That's not what I mean." Jia Muzin said in a deep voice, "You know the temperament of those people. Jia Shirley was defeated by me just now, so he has a belly full of anger. He will definitely want to make up for it with you. The difference in strength between you and him is quite big. He has many ways to make you suffer so much pain that you'll wish you were dead without breaking the rules of the competition." This. Jia Renzhong fell into contemplation. What young Master Muzin said was indeed reasonable, but if he forfeited now, would he be laughed at for not having courage? Uncle Gue looked at the big screen. The first match of the second round was Jia Tuyao against Jia Renzhong. He shouted, "Jia Tuyao and Jia Renzhong, please come onto the stage and prepare for the match." "Uncle Gue, I forfeit." Jia Renzhong hesitated for a while, and finally made a decision. He stood up and said. Compared to his face, he felt that preserving his strength was more important. "Oh." Uncle Gue was startled, and immediately understood the reason. He turned his head to look at Jia Jinyan, who was standing on the stage, and asked him for permission with his eyes. Jia Jinyan slightly nodded to Uncle Gui, indicating that he would directly move on to the next match. Obviously, he also knew that Jia Renjong's strength was not good enough, so he quite appreciated Jia Renjong's prompt decision to forfeit. After all, not everyone could have the courage to put down their dignity and choose the most beneficial way for themselves. Because Jia Renjong chose to forfeit, Jia Tiao automatically gets 1 point. Uncle Gui received the signal and loudly announced. Then, he immediately shouted, the second match of the second round, Jia Huiyan against Jia Muzhen, please come onto the stage and prepare for the match. Jia Muzhen was a little hesitant. Although his analysis of Jia Renjong's situation was clear and logical, he didn't have enough confidence when it was his turn. Seeing this, Shao Chen gave him a firm look, dispelling his worries in his heart. Go up. Remember what I said just now, you will definitely win this match. Okay. Jia Muzhen took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and stepped onto the stage. Oh, boy, you have guts. I thought you would be a coward like Jia Renjong, and choose to forfeit the match. Is it because you are itching for a beating, and you want to come onto the stage to let me teach you a lesson? Jia Huiyan didn't step onto the stage at the beginning, and only reacted after seeing Jia Muzhen step onto the stage. Originally, he thought that Jia Muzhen would also forfeit, but he didn't expect that this guy would be so daring as to send himself to be beaten. This was just right, he could finally vent his anger. Cut the crap. I have long disliked you. Today, I will take this opportunity to settle the old scores between us. Jia Muzhen didn't move at all, and said coldly. Chapter 1039. Ha ha ha. I think you have been beaten silly by Jia Shirlei, right? Do you think you are worthy of challenging me with your martial general perfection realm strength? Jia Huiyan ridiculed as if he had heard the world's funniest joke. Jia Muzhen slowly walked towards Jia Huiyan. As he recalled the days when he was ostracized, he felt a surge of anger rising from the bottom of his heart. His gaze towards Jia Huiyan became incomparably cold. Jia Huiyan simply did not take Jia Muzhen's approach to heart. Instead, he crooked his finger at him and provoked, come. Seeing that our friendship in the past was not bad, I can be a bit more generous and let you make the first move. This way, you won't be beaten to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy, complaining that I didn't give you a chance. Humph. Don't regret it. Jia Muzhen naturally would not refuse. With a cold snort, his left foot touched the ground, and his entire body soared into the air. Using all the strength in his body, he lifted his leg and kicked towards Jia Huiyan. TSK, this is simply child's play. Jia Huiyan contemptuously smiled. Just as he was about to revolve his heart sutra to resist Jia Muzhen's attack, he suddenly froze mid-sentence. He looked at Jia Muzhen with a confused expression and stood motionless in place. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jia Huiyan's chest was solidly kicked. His entire body flew out without any ability to resist. With a put-on sound, he was kicked off the stage. However, his strength was not bad. He did not faint like Jia Shirlei. Instead, he let out a long and miserable howl as he clutched his chest with a deathly pale complexion. The entire audience was once again silent. Apart from Shao Chen and Jia Muzhen, everyone had an extremely shocked expression. It was as if they had seen a ghost. They clearly saw that Jia Muzhen had only casually kicked Jia Huiyan, and Jia Huiyan had no ability to resist and was directly kicked off the stage. Jia Muzhen had won this match so easily. Especially Jia Shirlei. He had woken up before Jia Huiyan's match began. When he saw the scene of Jia Muzhen beating someone off the stage, he immediately opened his mouth wide. This Jia Muzhen clearly only had the strength of a martial general, but he actually beat Jia Huiyan off the stage. Jia Jinyan also had a face full of surprise. However, his surprise was not because Jia Huiyan was defeated, but because he finally understood who was playing tricks in the dark. Just now, when Jia Muzhen went up the stage, he had been paying full attention. Finally, when Jia Muzhen made his move, he clearly felt Shao Chen, who was outside the stage, secretly release a trace of demonic energy. Unknowingly, it restricted Jia Huiyan's movements, giving Jia Muzin the opportunity to take advantage of. With this, it was easy to deduce that the demon energy was released during the match between Jia and Jia Shirley. Jia Shirley and Jia Shirley. It was just that they did not know. The demon energy was Jia Jia Jia. However, Jia Jinyan only glared at Xiao Chen. He had no intention of exposing Xiao Chen's actions. After all, Xiao Chen was able to control a peak martial king expert with such a weak demonic qi. Although it was only for a short period of time, it was still a unique ability. From the perspective of the family, Jia Jinyan believed that if this ability could be used by the Jia family, it might bring them greater benefits. Moreover, Jia Jinyan did not know how deep Xiao Chen's strength was. He did not know if this ability could affect a higher-level martial venerable. If Xiao Chen left angrily because of Jia Jinyan's interception, the Jia family might lose a great foreign aid. Therefore, Jia Jinyan decided not to act rashly. He only glared at Xiao Chen as a warning. Ben. Jia Muzin wins this match and gets 1 point. Even Uncle Gui took a while to react. Although he did not dare to believe it, he still announced the result of the match. I don't accept this. Jia Huiyan propped himself up. Although Jia Muzin did not use any martial energy in that kick, it still made Jia Huiyan's chest feel suffocated. He endured the pain and protested. Jia Muzin must have used a dirty move. Otherwise, with his strength, how could he have kicked me away? I demand another match. Then, tell me, what dirty move did he use on you? Jia Jinyan did not refute him immediately. Instead, he asked a question. He also wanted to know if this kind of control ability could be detected by the opponent. This. I don't know either, but he definitely used it. Jia Huiyan was suddenly at a loss for words. He also couldn't understand. Just now, when Jia Muzin's kick flew over, he was in a daze and didn't know what was going on. He actually didn't circulate his mental cultivation method. It was as if his mind was empty for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he had already been kicked off the stage by that solid kick. Since you can't give a reason, then I cannot believe your words. Jia Jinyan had an idea in his heart. He said indifferently, Huiyan, you are too arrogant. Losing the match because of a moment of carelessness is your own fault. Mu Sen's victory is reasonable. I think there is no problem with this match. Jia Jinyan had already made up his mind. He was not prepared to expose Jia Huiyan. Moreover, through the previous matches, he could feel that Jia Huiyan's character was too poor. Therefore, he did not intend to vindicate him. Although it was necessary to use some sinister and scheming methods in order to become the head of the family, throwing a tantrum when he couldn't control the situation, not thinking of a follow-up solution, and only knowing how to protest, this showed that he lacked the ability to adapt on the spot. This. Jia Huiyan was dumbfounded. He was speechless for a long time. Originally, he thought that his grandfather would speak up for him. At the very least, he would check the video of the match. He did not expect that his grandfather would overrule him with a single sentence. All right, no need to say any more. Mu Sen, go rest for a while and prepare for the next match. Jia Jinyan waved his hand. It was obvious that he did not want to continue tangling with this matter. He turned his head and stared at Xiao Chen a few times. He seemed to be planning something in his heart. All right, thank you, Grandpa. Jia Muzin bowed to Jia Jinyan, turned around and walked down the stage. When he walked past Jia Huiyan, Jia Muzin did not look sideways. He directly ignored Jia Huiyan's murderous gaze. This time, he could finally hold his head high. He had vented out all the pent-up emotions in the past. He felt that his whole body was refreshed. Even when he walked, there was a breeze. Returning to the audience seats, Jia Muzin heard a few words of congratulations from Jiaranzhong. Jia Muzin said to Xiao Chen in a low voice, it seems that everything went well. Next, as long as you control Jia Tia one more time, I will be able to smoothly win the match. I don't think that will be possible. Xiao Chen frowned and slightly shook his head. Why? Jia Muzin was stunned. What was going on? Wasn't everything fine just now? Could it be that Xiao Chen's ability had already been used up? I have been stared at by your grandfather. Xiao Chen helplessly touched his nose. He has already stared at me a few times. I guess he has found something wrong. In the next match, I want to see you casually fight a few times. Then, you should admit defeat. Anyway, I have calculated that you have enough points now. Chapter 1040. Xiao Chen's six senses were very sensitive. Naturally, he sensed Jia Jinyan's gaze. Although spiritual power could not be detected by electronic devices, if he used the same trick again, Jia Jinyan would definitely come out to stop him. After all, he had already interfered with the whole process of the match. What? Jia Muzin was slightly stunned. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Jia Jinyan and found that Jia Jinyan was indeed staring at him. He was startled and hurriedly said, I got it. Then don't take the risk to help me anymore. I'll just forfeit the match later. That's not necessary. Xiao Chen smiled and explained, you still have to go on the stage and pretend, and then forfeit. Otherwise, it's easy to arouse the suspicion of others. Although he could no longer control others with his spiritual power, Jia Muzin had won all the matches with irresistible force. It would be too fake for him to forfeit the match now. Xiao Chen thought that it was better for him to go on the stage first, confuse the others, and then forfeit. The next match was the ultimate battle between Jia Muzin and Jia Tuyao. Jia Tuyao was a bit confused about Jia Muzin's previous two matches. He felt that it was very strange, but he didn't know what the problem was. During the interval, Jia Tuyao remembered Jia Shirlei, who had just woken up. He hurriedly ran to him and asked, Shirlei, what happened in the previous match? Why did you suddenly stand still and let him attack you? I don't know. When Jia Muzin attacked me, I was ready to fight back. But it seemed that my brain was suddenly out of control. My body didn't move, and then I was hit for nothing. Jia Shirlei tried hard to recall, but he still couldn't figure out what had happened. Damn it, it's my turn to compete with him in the next match. If I don't figure it out, won't I also be beaten for nothing? Jia Tiao anxiously paced back and forth, looking very upset. He didn't want to lose the match for no reason, but he also didn't want to be beaten by Jia Muzin for no reason. He was even more unwilling to forfeit the match. Suddenly, he fell into a dilemma. Young Master Tuyao, I think you'd better be careful. Maybe I hit him too hard and hurt him, so he played weird tricks on me. Jia Shirlei endured the pain and thought for a while, then suddenly opened his mouth and said, What do you mean? At this moment, Jia Tuyao was like an ant on a hot pan. Hearing Jia Muzin's words, he was very puzzled. Could it be that if he wanted to win, he couldn't hit Jia Muzin hard? It's like this. If you don't use martial qi in the competition, then Jia Muzin might also not use it. Just now, when he was fighting against Jia Huiyan, didn't he also not use martial qi? He only used ordinary punches and kicks, right? Jia Shirlei cautiously analyzed. I think so. Jia Tiao thought for a moment, then nodded and said. Jia Shirlei rubbed his wound and grimaced in pain. I was worse off. He knew that his strength wasn't as high as mine, so he deliberately used dirty tricks to make me unable to move. Only then did he win the match. Oh. But my martial arts are very poor. If I don't use martial qi, how can I beat him? Hearing this, Jia Tiao felt that Jia Tuyao's words were somewhat reasonable. His face immediately fell. Usually, he fought with his martial qi, and had never used ordinary martial arts. He hadn't even learned any martial arts. Therefore, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat Jia Muzin. Young Master Tuyao, I think what Shirlei said is reasonable. Why don't you give it a try later? Fight against Jia Muzin without using martial qi. Anyway, he definitely won't dare to kill you, unless he's not afraid of being disqualified. Jia Raijing instigated from the side. This. Jia Tiao scratched his head and looked a bit hesitant. It was one thing to not be beaten to death, but if he was suppressed by martial qi, he would also lose face, wouldn't he? The last round of the competition starts now. Jia Muzin and Jia Tiao, please come onto the stage. Before Jia Tiao could make a final decision, the break time had already come. Uncle Gui shouted from the stage. Forget it, I can only make every possible effort now. Jia Tiao gnashed his teeth and walked onto the stage with a nervous heart. However, he saw Jia Muzin coming onto the stage from the opposite side with a relaxed face, and walking towards him leisurely, as if nothing had happened. Tuyao, it's finally our turn to fight. Aren't you a little excited? Jia Muzin showed a gentle and harmless smile. Glancing at Jia Tuyao, who was sweating profusely, Jia Muzin couldn't help but feel a bit amused. Although Jia Tuyao and his teammates had lowered their voices on purpose, every single word of their conversation had been heard by Xiao Qin. Therefore, he told Jia Muzin what he should do as soon as possible. Jia Muzin immediately understood. Although he wasn't very powerful, his martial arts were quite solid. Before, when he was in the university, he had been studying martial arts books. Therefore, not to mention one Jia Tiao, even if there were 10 of him, he would still be able to defeat them easily. It's okay. Looking at Jia Muzin, who was still making small talk before the start of the competition, Jia Tiao stuttered out his answer. He felt that he couldn't see through this guy anymore. Hee, then let's start, take my punch. Jia Muzin grinned evilly. Before Jia Tiao could react, Jia Muzin quickly threw a punch towards his left cheek. Although he didn't use any martial qi, his punch was still quite powerful. Bang! Caught off guard, Jia Tuyao didn't even have the time to block the punch. His face took a solid punch, and he immediately let out a scream. He lost his balance and staggered back a few steps. Fortunately, he managed to control his center of gravity in time, otherwise, he would have fallen out of the arena. You're playing tricks again. Jia Tiao covered his left cheek, which was now covered in bruises, pointed at Jia Muzin and yelled loudly. What are you talking about? How am I playing tricks? Didn't I say in advance that I was going to throw a punch? Why didn't you just dodge? Jia Muzin wasn't angry at all, and still said with a smile. Jia Tiao glared at Jia Muzin in anger. How the F***ck did you call this advance? However, before he could refute, Jia Muzin immediately raised his leg and swept towards his waist, while yelling in a low voice, "Look at my leg." What the F***ck? Jia Tuyao had just suffered a loss, so his reaction had become much more sensitive. He hurriedly stepped back and barely dodged Jia Muzin's kick. Right hook. Uppercut. Sweeping kick. Thunderbolt whirlwind kick. Jia Muzin didn't give Jia Tuyao any chance to take a breath. He quickly rushed up to Jia Tuyao, yelled loudly, and continuously threw punches and kicks at Jia Tuyao. Although all the moves he used were extremely ordinary, Jia Tuyao was already nervous, and he didn't even know how to use punches and kicks. As time went by, Jia Tuyao's whole body was covered in bruises, and his face was covered in all kinds of colors, as if he had opened a soy sauce shop. Chapter 1041. After defending for a while, Jia Tiao couldn't take it anymore. Although Jia Muzin was thin and scrawny, his punches and kicks were powerful. Without using any martial qi, Jia Muzin's punches and kicks were as powerful as a tiger's. If Jia Muzin didn't use his martial qi, Jia Tiao would feel as if he was hit by a stick, and if he didn't pay attention, he would be injured. Jia Tiao tried to find a chance to fight back, but his martial arts were too weak, and he couldn't find a suitable chance to fight back. He had been in a passive state, and every time he tried to fight back, not only did it not work, but he would also be punched or kicked by Jia Tiao, which was so frustrating. F***ck. You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me. What on earth do you want? When Jia Tiao finally found a chance to steady himself, he was so angry that smoke was rising from his head. He couldn't help but curse out loud. In front of all his family members, he was humiliated by Jia Muzin, who was much weaker than him. Jia Tuyao felt that he had lost all his face. I didn't want to do anything. This is an arena, isn't it normal for me to fight back? Jia Muzin said innocently. Jia Tuyao couldn't bear it anymore. The great sense of humiliation made him give up all his defensive moves, leaving his body wide open. Like a crazy tiger, he waved his fists and rushed towards Jia Muzin. Wait! Seeing this, Jia Muzin quickly took a few steps back, as if he didn't want to fight Jia Tuyao face to face. What are you waiting for? Come on. Fight back. Beat me down like how you beat Jia Huiyan just now. Jia Tuyao was under too much mental pressure, and his body had just been mercilessly tortured. At this moment, he was on the verge of going crazy. He didn't listen to Jia Muzin's order, and still rushed towards him while shouting himself hoarse. Oh, that's what you said. Then I'll fulfill your wish. Jia Muzin stood still. When Jia Tuyao reached in front of him, Jia Muzin suddenly activated his martial qi, grabbed Jia Tuyao's clothes, lifted him up, and threw him out of the arena. Jia Tuyao kept in mind the warning that he couldn't use martial qi. Therefore, when Jia Muzin made his move, he couldn't resist at all, and was thrown high into the air, flying straight out of the arena. He thought to himself, I finally got out. Finally, I don't have to be humiliated by this guy anymore. Bang! In front of everyone's dumbfounded expressions, Jia Tuyao was thrown onto the ground. Strangely, he didn't let out a scream. Instead, a relieved smile appeared on his face. The whole scene was strangely silent. Uncle Gui didn't react and stood there in a daze. Jia Muzin looked down at his hands in disbelief. Did I win just like that? It was actually so simple. Ahem. Jia Jinyan couldn't stand it anymore. He cleared his throat and reminded them. Uncle Gui's body trembled as he came back to his senses. He immediately stepped forward and raised Jia Muzin's hand as he announced, the winner of this match is young Master Jia Muzin. All right. Well done. A burst of cheers came from somewhere in the audience. Everyone turned their heads and saw that it was Xiao Chen and Jia Renzhong applauding with all their might. Jia Renzhong was so excited that his face turned red. He was deeply happy that he had followed such a powerful boss. Tuyao, what's going on? Were you sneak attacked? Jia Huiyan asked anxiously when he saw Jia Tuyao stand up in a daze. Sneak attack? No. How is that possible? Jia Tuyao glared at Jia Muzin and immediately shook his head to deny it. Jia Huiyan was also dumbfounded. What was wrong with Jia Tuyao? He was so much more powerful than Jia Muzin, but he was thrown off the stage just like that. Did he and Jia Muzin reach some other agreement? Jia Tuyao, in the match just now, did you use your real strength? Why did you lose? Jia Jinyan couldn't help but ask. Just now, he didn't sense any demonic power fluctuation outside the stage, which meant that Xiao Chen didn't make any move at all. How could Jia Tuyao lose in such a favorable situation? Jia Jinyan also considered the possibility that Jia Tuyao and Jia Tuyao had reached a private agreement, but no matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like it. Feeling puzzled, he simply asked. Grandpa, Jia Muzin is too cunning. He didn't directly throw me off the stage like he did to Jia Huiyan and the others. Instead, he gave me psychological pressure, trying to destroy me psychologically. Jia Tuyao's face turned pale. His tightly clenched fists were slightly trembling, and he stared at Jia Muzin with red eyes and protested loudly. This. Jia Jinyan was stunned. What the hell is psychological pressure? Just now, I saw Jia Muzin use his fists and feet, but you can use your martial qi. If you use your martial qi, won't you completely suppress Jia Muzin? Grandpa, tell me, such a cunning and despicable trick, how can I let him succeed? It's better to provoke him directly and let him throw me off the stage. In this way, I won't have to be bullied by him anymore. Jia Tuyao answered passionately, his face filled with righteous indignation. The corner of Jia Jinyan's mouth twitched, and he was instantly speechless. What kind of F***king reason was this? Even after being thrown off the stage, he still spoke with justice and conviction. With such a low IQ, Jia Tuyao really didn't deserve to be the heir of the family. If he was really allowed to be the heir, wouldn't he be cheated by the other families and go bankrupt? All right, all of you go and have a rest. Jia Jinyan didn't want to ask any more questions, so he waved his hand to dismiss them. He was extremely disappointed in Jia Tuyao, and on the contrary, he felt that Jia Muzin was quite clever. Even without Xiao Chen's help, he still knew how to take advantage of loopholes, and was a promising talent. Jia Muzin cupped his hands to Jia Jinyan, then walked down the stage with his head held high and chest puffed out, as if he had won. From time to time, he cupped his hands to the surrounding disciples of the Jia family, looking relaxed. Well done. Seeing Jia Muzin walking over in high spirits, Xiao Chen smilingly applauded. Hee, it's really fun to fight according to the way you taught me. I guess that idiot Jia Tuyao is about to explode in anger. Jia Muzin laughed, turned his head to look at Jia Tuyao under the stage, and made a gesture of victory. I think you're still too gentle. If it were me, I would directly beat him until he couldn't take care of himself, and then he wouldn't be able to participate in the following matches. Xiao Chen couldn't help but click his tongue when he saw that Jia Tuyao's eyes were about to burst into flames, but because of the rules, he didn't dare to act rashly. Jia Muzin smiled, shook his head, and said, forget it, even if I beat him until he's disabled, he can still have external help to participate in the matches, and it won't cause too much of an impact. Those two external help are both useless. If they dare to challenge you, I can easily beat them up with my little finger, Xiao Chen said lightly. Young Master Mu Sen, hero Xiao Chen, look, Jia Huiyan seems to be playing tricks again, he's really enjoying it. At this time, Jia Renzhong came over, pointed at Jia Huiyan's direction, and said in a low voice with a helpless look. Xiao Chen turned his head to look, and sure enough, he saw Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao, who had just returned in a hurry, whispered to each other, and said something to Jia Inu, after which Jia Inu took a small bag and left the martial arts arena in a hurry. Chapter 1042. After the break, Jia Jinyan stood up and said loudly, the lot drawing competition is over. Next, the challenge competition will begin. According to the rules of the challenge competition, every disciple participating in the competition has the opportunity to challenge others. The person being challenged can be an external helper or a disciple themselves. If the challenger wins, they can continue to challenge others, and if the challenged wins, they will replace the challenger and continue to challenge others. The winning external helper or disciple will get 1 point, and the loser will not get any points. After a pause, Jia Jinyan continued, the rules of victory and defeat are the same as the challenge competition just now. There is no need to kill. As long as the opponent is knocked unconscious or knocked out of the ring, it is considered the winner. If one party takes the initiative to admit defeat, then the other party is not allowed to attack again, otherwise, they will be disqualified. After explaining the rules of the competition, Jia Jinyan signaled his trusted aide beside him to press the mouse and then said in a deep voice, now, the competition begins. The first challenger will be selected by the computer randomly drawing lots. Everyone, please get ready. As soon as Jia Jinyan's voice fell, the names of the contestants began to scroll on the big screen. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths as they stared at the big screen, wanting to know who the first challenger would be. However, the strange thing was that unlike the previous lot drawing competition, which ended in a few seconds and the results were scrolling, this time, after the trusted aide pressed the mouse, the names on the big screen kept changing and did not stop for a long time. It looked like there was a malfunction. The others did not feel anything, but this strange phenomenon had already attracted the attention of Xiao Chen. Recalling the behavior of Jia Huiyan and the others, he vaguely guessed something. He immediately released his divine sense and searched around the martial arts arena. As expected, in a remote corner outside the martial arts arena, Xiao Chen used his divine sense to find the figure of Jia Kusu. He saw that he was holding a laptop in his hand, and his fingers were typing quickly on the keyboard. No one knew what he was up to. Xiao Chen focused and gathered all his divine sense to take a closer look. He found that Jia Kusu was actually using hacking software to interfere with the results of the lot drawing. His fingers moved quickly and typed out Jia Huiyan's name. Then, he quickly dragged it into the competition's lot drawing software. After confirming that there was no mistake, he hit the enter key. On the big screen in the martial arts arena, Jia Huiyan's name immediately appeared. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that Jia Huiyan came prepared. I wonder what their next plan is. Presumably, it was targeted at Jia Muzan. Jia Jinyan glanced at the screen and asked indifferently, Huiyan, who do you want to challenge? Will you choose to fight on your own, or will you let an external helper fight on your behalf? Reporting to Grandpa, I choose to have the external aid, Tang Yuanxing, represent me in this match. The person I want to challenge is Jia Muzan. If he wants to have an external aid, that's fine too. Jia Huiyan replied with an evil smile. Last night, he had discussed with Jia Tuyao for an entire night, and had already reached a secret agreement. They would first defeat Jia Muzan and Xiao Chen in the competition, then let the two foreign helpers decide the winner based on their own abilities. Jia Muzan's complexion changed. He had guessed that Jia Huiyan would first get points from him, but he didn't expect that Jia Huiyan would deliberately send an external helper to deal with him. This was too despicable. Why are you still challenging me? Xiao Chen stood up and waved his hand at Jia Huiyan as if he was a beggar. He said impatiently, once you've finished challenging me, you and the others will have nothing to do. I'm a very honest person, and I don't want to lie to you. I suggest that you get more points from others. Humph. This was the first time that Tang Yuanxing had met such an arrogant opponent. He immediately became furious. He coldly snorted and quickly jumped onto the stage. He pointed at Xiao Chen and said coldly, Xiao, don't waste time like *King old woman. If you have the guts, come up here and fight me fair and square. What's the point of saying all this bullshit? Sigh, since you want to give points to me so much, then I'll reluctantly accept it. Don't regret it. Xiao Chen helplessly shook his head. He comfortingly patted Jia Muzan's shoulder, then slowly walked onto the stage and stood opposite of Tang Yuanxing. Xiao Chen didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he patiently waited for Tang Yuanxing to attack first. He had never encountered a real venerable, so he planned to use this opportunity to test the strength of a venerable. I'd like to see what you have to make me regret it. Tang Yuanxing ridiculed. He circulated his mental cultivation and fully displayed the strength of a level 1 venerable. Then, he took out a strangely shaped dagger and held it in his right hand. It seemed to be his personal weapon. Xiao Chen glanced at the dagger. The blade was shaped like a black wave, and the handle was made of some unknown wood. There were many vines wrapped around it, and they were constantly wriggling. You can't be so naive to think that you can win with this fruit knife, right? Xiao Chen teased with a smile. However, he didn't let his guard down. He immediately released his strength and used his yuan qi to protect his body. His eyes were fixed on Tang Yuanxing's every move, and he was ready to receive his attack at any time. Hee hee. Tang Yuanxing sneered. He seemed to be very confident in his speed. He slightly bent his body and charged straight at Xiao Chen. His right hand lightly slashed in the air. Xiao Chen was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Tang Yuanxing's speed to be so fast. In almost an instant, he was already in front of him. Xiao Chen was about to dodge the attack when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his right leg. It seemed that Tang Yuanxing's dagger had already cut it. Tang Yuanxing did not stop because of this. Instead, he quickly turned around and came to Xiao Chen's left side. He waved the dagger again and made a cut on Xiao Chen's left arm. Although the cut was not very deep, blood quickly flowed out, echoing the bloodstain on Xiao Chen's right leg. So you're an expert in speed. It seems that I've underestimated you. However, this small injury doesn't seem to be a threat to a venerable. Do you have any other moves? Xiao Chen retaliated mercilessly as he quickly checked the injuries on his arm and thigh. Although the two wounds were bleeding, the blood that flowed out was bright red. It was obvious that the dagger wasn't smeared with poison. Don't celebrate too early. I advise you to quickly prepare for your funeral. You won't live for long. Tang Yuanqing crossed his arms and stood not far away with an expressionless face. He was no longer waiting for an opportunity to attack. Instead, he was leisurely talking, as if he was waiting for something to happen. Xiao Chen was stunned when he heard this. He immediately tried to circulate the yuan qi in his body. However, he found that there wasn't any blockage. Instead, the circulation was much smoother than before. For a moment, he was a little confused about Tang Yuanqing's intentions. However, Jia Muzhen, who was standing below the arena, noticed that something was wrong. He hurriedly warned, Xiao Chen. There seems to be something coming out from the wounds on your arm and thigh. Chapter 1043. What? Xiao Chen was taken aback. He immediately lowered his head to take a look and discovered that the two wounds on his body were only bleeding just now. Now, a black substance had grown out, as if some kind of plant had sprouted inside. Ha ha ha. Aren't you surprised? Tang Yuanqing finally revealed a cunning smile. He waved the black dagger in his hand and proudly introduced it. Don't be fooled by the ugly appearance of this dagger. It is a living weapon. As long as it cuts someone, no matter how small or shallow the wound is, it will plant a seed in your wound and quickly germinate. Just like your arm and thigh. You also like to play with potted plants? Were you a gardener in the past? Xiao Chen frowned. His body suddenly grew plants. This scene was very strange no matter how he looked at it. You still have the mood to laugh at me? I advise you to take care of yourself. Tang Yuanqing put away the dagger and said in a cold tone, do you think it will just grow plants? This kind of seed will absorb the martial qi, demonic qi, and blood in your body as nourishment for its growth. Then, it will grow rapidly. When the nourishment in your body is sucked dry, this plant will automatically wither. How about it? Very interesting, right? Oh, then I'll kill you before it grows, and then I'll slowly look for the antidote. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered to delay any longer. He directly mobilized the essence in his body and rushed towards Tang Yuanqing, slapping his chest with his palm. Unexpectedly, after Xiao Chen moved, he found that his right leg was as heavy as lead. The wind that he slapped out also had no power. It was like a breeze blowing past Tang Yuanqing's body, not causing any damage. Oh right, I forgot to tell you just now. This plant will not only affect your movement speed, but it will also preferentially absorb martial qi and demonic qi that have attacking power. So, don't struggle on your deathbed. Just quietly wait to be sucked dry. Tang Yuanqing looked at Xiao Chen without moving and said with a mocking expression. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He didn't expect this plant to be so abnormal. Since he couldn't move or attack, he could only choose to control Tang Yuanqing's mind and let him detoxify him. With that thought in mind, Xiao Chen immediately released his mental strength toward Tang Yuanqing. However, just as it was about to touch his body, it was blocked by an invisible barrier. Holy shit! How could it be so deceptive? Xiao Chen was speechless. This was really an unexpected situation. It seemed that his spirit could only control Demon King level powerhouses at the moment, and it was ineffective against venerable ones. Tang Yuanqing's cultivation at the venerable realm was probably higher than his cultivation at the peak of Gold Core stage. You can actually release your devil qi to affect me. That's a good idea, but your cultivation is too low. If you were a second layer venerable, I might have fallen for your trick. But now, you're too naive. Tang Yuanqing said in a slightly surprised tone. He also felt Xiao Chen's martial qi just now, but he thought it was just one of Xiao Chen's attacking methods. He didn't think about mental control. After the experiment, Xiao Chen felt that Tang Yuanqing in front of him was really a bit tricky. He wasn't as easy to deal with as he thought. Staring at the leisurely Tang Yuanqing, Xiao Chen's face darkened slightly. He estimated that this guy's strength was really not weak. Although his level was only half a level lower than his ability was obviously much higher. Moreover, his speed was too fast. Even if he wasn't affected by the poisonous plant, it would be difficult to catch and defeat him. Just as he felt a little helpless, the voice of Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly sounded in Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen, are you stupid? This kind of lousy plant, just burn it with a fireball. Why are you waiting to be sucked dry and die? Ah. Burn it with fire? Then wouldn't I be burning myself to death? Xiao Chen was stunned and asked doubtfully. Although he often used the fireball skill, he had never burned his own body. His first reaction was inevitably a little worried. You're crazy. You used to hold the fireball in your hand all the time. Why didn't you burn your hand? Elder Heaven Ancestor said angrily, you were so logical when you were teaching that Missy. Why are you so crazy when it's your turn? That's right, then I'll try. Xiao Chen suddenly understood. He immediately used his right hand to cast a fireball and burned the wound on his left hand. Sizzle. The black plant was immediately burned by the fireball. In just a few seconds, it turned into black ash and fell to the ground. However, Xiao Chen's arm was not affected at all. Xiao Chen calmed down when he saw this. He tossed out another fireball and burned the wound on his right leg. Not long after, the plant growing on his leg was also burnt to a crisp, leaving not a single residue behind. The air was filled with a burnt smell, and the price Xiao Chen paid was only 2 large holes burned in his sleeves and pants. This is impossible. Seeing this scene, Tang Yuanqing was shocked. He did not expect Xiao Chen to use this kind of sorcery to burn the plant he planted so easily. Oh, why is it impossible? Have you never eaten barbecued vegetables before? Xiao Chen patted the ashes on his body. He felt a lot more relaxed. Immediately, he raised 2 fireballs in his hands and sneered, since your gardening performance is over, it's my turn to show my incompetence. After saying that, Xiao Chen did not wait for the shocked Tang Yuanqing to react. He quickly threw the fireballs in his hands. One directly hit Tang Yuanqing's lower abdomen, and the other blocked his way from the side. What the F***ck? Tang Yuanqing was still immersed in the scene just now. He was shocked when he saw this. He had never seen this kind of trick before, and he did not dare to face it head-on. However, at this time, his escape route was blocked. He could only fall to the ground helplessly. He rolled forward like a lazy donkey, and only then did he barely escape the attack of the 2 fireballs. Your reaction is quite fast. This donkey roll is also very accurate. However, you rolled to the wrong place. Let me help you. Xiao Chen laughed and teased. He flew over and kicked Tang Yuanqing directly while he had not gotten up from the ground. Bang! There was only a muffled sound. Tang Yuanqing, who was still in shock, was kicked out of the ring. He was caught off guard and hit Jia Huiyan and the others who were watching from the side. That was not the end. The fireball that attacked Tang Yuanqing previously, because he had dodged it, flew straight down the ring and landed on Jia Huiyan's clothes. Before Jia Huiyan could react, Tang Yuanqing flew down together with the fireball and rolled into a ball with Jia Huiyan. The 2 of them immediately emitted bursts of flames. Chapter 1044. Ah! I'm on fire. It's burning me. Help! Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and get a fire extinguisher. Jia Huiyan panicked and crawled on the ground. He wanted to use the dust to extinguish the flames on his body, but it was to no avail. Ah! It's so hot. It's burning me. Tang Yuanqing was also wailing. He wanted to circulate his mind power to resist, but it was of no use. Even his hair was almost burnt off. He could only roll around on the ground, trying to extinguish the fire on his body, but the result was also in vain. Xiao Chen stood in the ring with his arms crossed in front of his chest. He looked down at the 2 people rolling on the ground. He smiled and teased, Jia Huiyan, aren't you too fake? There are so many fire words in your name. I thought you lacked fire in the 5 elements, so I wanted to give you a fire to increase your popularity. I didn't expect you to be so intolerant of fire. You really disappoint me. The staff at the scene were not as relaxed as Xiaochen. They were almost scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. If the young master of the direct line was burned to death, it would be a big joke. They immediately picked up the fire extinguisher and rushed over. They turned on the switch and sprayed on the two people. A large amount of white foam quickly wrapped around the two people, and the flames on their bodies were extinguished. Jia Jinyan, who was watching from afar, did not expect such a situation to occur. He was a little anxious and stood up unconsciously. He wanted to see Jia Huiyan's injuries. His mood was very conflicted. On one hand, he felt that Xiaochen was too arrogant and ruthless. He would not show mercy to the Jia family, which made him feel like he was slapped in the face. But on the other hand, Jia Jinyan was very pleased that Jia Muzhen could find such external help. After all, if Jia Muzhen became the family head, the Jia family would have Xiaochen's long-term help in the future. Although Xiaochen alone was not like adding wings to a tiger, his various abilities would definitely bring a lot of benefits to the Jia family. Moreover, this guy's strength was not bad. He should even be considered quite strong among his peers. He was still so young, so he must have great potential. In time, he would definitely soar to the sky. Uncle Gui, I think you can tell everyone who the winner of this round is now, right? Seeing that the flames on Jia Huiyan and Tang Yuanqing's bodies had already been extinguished, and the two of them were sitting in a pile of bubbles in a daze, Xiaochen indifferently reminded them. Although he hated Jia Huiyan, Xiaochen would not let him burn to death. It would be troublesome if he was disqualified. Xiaochen wanted to throw a waterball spell to help put out the fire, but since there was a fire extinguisher, he didn't want to waste his primordial qi. Oh, yes, okay. I hereby announce that Xiaochen is the winner of this match, and young Master Jia Muzhen has obtained 1 point. Uncle Gui was in a daze today. He had almost forgotten his duties as a referee. He only came back to his senses when Xiaochen reminded him. Wait. Tang Yuanqing stood up with his face covered in dirt. Just now, he had martial qi to protect his body. Although his hair was burnt, he was not injured. Do you have any questions? Uncle Gui, who was questioned again, asked with a serious expression. Tang Yuanqing was not convinced that he had lost the match. As an external aid, he was not afraid of offending Uncle Gui. He pointed at Xiaochen and said, "You cheated. Just now, you were just sneak attacking me with fire. What kind of ability is that? If you have the ability, let's have a fair and square match." That's right, too shameless. You actually relied on such a despicable method to win. Jia Huiyan could not stand up for a long time. His throat was hoarse. Enduring the pain, he turned to Jia Jinyan and said, "Grandpa, I think this match should not be counted. We should have a new match." He was not as lucky as Tang Yuanqing. Before he could circulate his mental cultivation to defend, he was hit by the fireball. His defenseless body was burned red, and even his clothes were burned. He looked very miserable. I say, Jia Huiyan, why are you so childish? Losing the match is losing, but you still have to find an excuse. If you really became the patriarch, then the Jia family would be hopeless. Apart from being a rascal, there is nothing good about them. Jia Muzhen, who was standing below the arena, glanced at Jia Huiyan and mocked him with contempt. Jia Huiyan was furious when he heard this. He did not know where he got the strength from, but he got up and pointed at Jia Muzhen and angrily cursed, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who is being a rascal? It is clearly Xiaochen who deliberately played dirty. He won unfairly, so I raised my objection. How can it be considered as being a rascal?" Without waiting for Jia Muzhen to open his mouth to counterattack, a snickering sound suddenly came from the surroundings. Many of the disciples and the surrounding imperial guards covered their mouths with strange expressions on their faces. Some of them even pointed at Jia Huiyan and whispered to each other. Xiaochen shook his head and looked at Jia Huiyan with disgust. TSK, do you think you are shooting an action film? What are you blindly swinging around with a toothpick? Even if you are not afraid of losing face, you still have to consider the Jia family's face, right? There are still outsiders here. What Japanese action movie? What toothpick? Are you stupid? F***K. Jia Huiyan was baffled at first and didn't think much of it. It was only until the surrounding disciples' laughter became louder and louder, and their gazes became more and more unbridled that Jia Huiyan felt something was wrong. He looked down and discovered that the clothes on his body had been completely burned, and he was currently in a vacuum state. Jia Huiyan was embarrassed and anxious. He hurriedly tore a piece of cloth from Jia Shouji's clothes and tried his best to cover the important parts. He felt that everyone was laughing at him, and he was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig a hole in the ground. As if performing a magic trick, Xiaochen took out a bottle of eye drops from who knows where and put on a show of seriousness. He helplessly sighed and said, "Sigh, I came to participate in the clan's tournament, but I didn't expect to see such an unclean thing. What bad luck. I hope I don't get a needle's eye when I go back." The whispers under the stage grew louder, and there were even whistles. Jia Huiyan glared at Xiaochen with hatred, but he couldn't find any words to refute. Dong, dong, dong. Just when Jia Huiyan's face was about to turn purple, Jia Jinyan frowned and heavily knocked on the table. The laughing people under the stage instantly quieted down. Jia Jinyan's face darkened for a while before he opened his mouth and said, "For this match, Mu Sen's side wins. Either Xiaochen or Mu Sen can continue to challenge other people. As for the other matters, don't say any more." Since the old master had spoken, the others naturally didn't dare to say anything else. Jia Huiyan could only suppress the anger in his heart and hurriedly put on his new clothes. He grumbled to Tang Yuansheng, complaining about his incompetence. Usually, he could boast so much, but in the end, he was defeated by Xiao Chen with a few balls of fire. Tang Yuansheng also felt wronged. He didn't even have time to use his true strength. Chapter 1045. He originally thought that he could easily win by relying on his unique weapon. He did not expect Xiao Chen to have such a strange martial technique that was not inferior to his own. In the end, he fell into a pit. "Oh, the initiative is finally in my hands." Xiao Chen took a few deep breaths and did a few chest expansion movements in a refreshed manner. He then twisted his neck and turned his head to the side family descendants below the stage and waved, "Jia Sholuo, Jia Shilei, and Jia Raijing, hurry up and come up here. And that dog Jia, where the hell did he go? Hurry up and give your points. Don't wait for this young master to find you personally." "Ahem, Xiao Chen, don't talk nonsense. That person's name is Jia Kunyu." Jia Muzin understood Xiao Chen's intention. He wanted to help him gain points, but he was too arrogant. Who would directly call someone from the Jia family a dog? What if he accidentally angered Grandpa? Jia Muzin stole a glance at his grandpa in the stands and saw that Jia Jinyan's face was ashen. His expression was very unhappy, but he did not seem to have any intention of reprimanding Jia Jinyan. "Oh, that's about it. As long as the words can convey the meaning, it's fine." Xiao Chen waved his hand indifferently and said impatiently, "What? This young master's words don't work, right? I called you up on stage, but you didn't come up. What is the meaning of this? Are you still going to compete or not?" I admit defeat." "I also admit defeat. Jia Kunyu and I both admit defeat." Jia Raijing, Jia Shilei, and Jia Shuluo's faces were pale as they said in unison. Because Jia Kunyu was still operating the computer outside, Jia Shuluo also said it for him. Anyway, this coward would definitely not go up on stage to fight with Xiao Chen. Jia Huiyan's expression was not worried. Obviously, he was a little dissatisfied with the side family descendants' cold feet. However, he also knew that even if they went up on stage, they could only hold their heads and take a beating. So even if they admitted defeat, he had nothing to say. Xiao Chen nodded his head in satisfaction. He turned to Jia Jinyan and cupped his hands, saying, "Old patriarch, since these people are so obedient and took the initiative to give points to Jia Muzin, the heir of the patriarch, then can you directly give Jia Musen 4 more patriarch points? Yes, indeed. Jia Jinyan did not object. After all, Xiaochen had called out everyone's name. It was the other party who chose to admit defeat and did not break the rules. Therefore, he nodded and immediately added 4 points to Jia Musen on the table. Alright, Jia Tiao, now, do you want to come up here and give your points to me, or let your helper come up here and exercise his muscles? Xiaochen saw that Jia Musen's position as the successor of Jia Musen was basically as stable as a mountain. Therefore, what he needed to do next was to give Jia Tiao a warning. Xiaochen, you little bastard, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you won some points from a few cowards who can't even fight. Before Jia Tiao could open his mouth, Bai Songyan took the initiative to walk towards the stage. Oh, you actually said that those people of the Jia clan are all cowards? Was it appropriate to say that? Will it harm your internal unity? Xiaochen asked in surprise. Only now did Bai Songyan realize that in order to ridicule Xiaochen, he had offended all of Jia Tiao's allies. He took a glance down the stage and found that the faces of those people were indeed a bit stiff. However, at this moment, he had no time to care about that. He snorted coldly, expressionlessly looked at Xiaochen and said, "Cut the crap. If you can only throw fireballs, this kind of small trick, then I can tell you clearly that you will lose this game for sure." Oh. It seems that you are quite confident. Then, take this. Xiaochen had already put his hands behind his back and silently condensed 2 fireballs. Before his voice faded, he had already thrown them towards Bai Songyan. Once the fireballs were thrown out, Xiaochen quickly condensed another 2 fireballs and threw them towards Bai Songyan from 2 tricky angles. 4 fireballs flew out in weird arcs. Some of them were aimed at Bai Songyan's face, while some were aimed at his back. It seemed to be a close call, but Bai Songyan seemed to have already grasped the flying routes of these fireballs. With an unknown step skill, he easily dodged the fireballs, then darted towards Xiaochen at an extremely high speed. How can this be? Xiaochen was slightly startled. When he was about to defend himself, a dazzling white light suddenly flashed across his eyes. At that moment, Xiaochen couldn't see anything clearly. When he came back to his senses, he saw Bai Songyan's fist growing bigger and bigger in front of his eyes. It was already too late for him to dodge. Bang! Caught off guard, Xiaochen's face took a solid punch and he took 2 steps back. Before he could steady himself, another white light flashed across the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, everything in front of him turned white. Alarms went off in Xiaochen's heart. Before he could retreat in time, the white light followed closely behind. His lower abdomen suffered another heavy kick. It was so painful that he almost vomited out his gallbladder. Holy sh*t, what the hell is this? Xiaochen tried his best to dodge left and right. He was a little puzzled. Why was there a dazzling white light every time before Bai Songyan attacked? Most people's defense was to observe the opponent's attack pattern and make the corresponding dodging or defensive strategy. However, this white light was not only dazzling, but it also blocked people's vision. It was impossible to see the opponent's attack pattern. Even if he wanted to dodge or defend, he couldn't figure it out. After suffering a few losses, Xiaochen couldn't help but feel a headache. Hee, do you feel that your eyes are going blind? Bai Songyan used the white light to punch again, knocking Xiaochen to the ground. Then he retreated not far away and said proudly, "Didn't you notice that I wore gloves today? Let me tell you, my gloves and shoes are equipped with a special laser ray emitting device. As long as I aim the ray at the opponent's eyes when I punch or kick, I can make the opponent unable to see clearly for a short time. You should have seen the white light just now, right? That's the ray." Xiaochen spat out the blood in his mouth, endured the heat on his face, stood up, and said disdainfully, "I didn't expect that a dignified martial artist would like to use such despicable tricks. Planting flowers and grass, shooting light rays, it seems like it's all fake. Hee, you can talk for a while. The best is yet to come." Bai Songyan put away the laser ray emitting device and sneered, "Just now, Tang Yuanqing made a mistake and let you get lucky. I won't make such a low-level mistake again. Watch my palm. Before he finished speaking, Bai Songyan activated his mental cultivation method and revealed his strength. He was a stage 2 martial venerable. Then, he struck his palm out of thin air, and a ferocious and powerful martial qi attacked the position where Xiao Chen was standing. Xiao Chen was shocked. He had thought that Tang Yuanqing's peak stage 1 martial venerable was already the best of the best. He didn't expect Bai Songyan's strength to be even higher. Chapter 1046. He subconsciously dodged to the side, trying to avoid Bai Songyan's palm wind, but something unexpected happened again. What the hell is this? Just as he took a step to the left, Xiao Chen felt his left arm and left leg suddenly come into contact with a few threads that were as thin as hair. Before he could even react, his hands and feet were immediately cut into several wounds, revealing shallow bloody marks. After dodging the martial qi, Xiao Chen stabilized his body and carefully observed his surroundings again, only to find that he had been surrounded by a layer of thin threads that looked like a spider web. Looking closely, he saw that each thread was extremely thin, but they were all shining with a sharp light, looking extremely sharp, and also emitting a faint martial qi. It seems that you have found something interesting again. Bai Songyan looked at Xiao Chen's cautious look, shaking his legs leisurely and mocking him, "Don't waste your time struggling in vain. The thin threads around you are called the heavenly silk net. They are all made of special materials. Not only are they incomparably tough and sharp, but they are also smeared with special grease. They are not afraid of being cut by knives or burned by fire. Your methods are completely useless. So I advise you to admit defeat as soon as possible, so that you can suffer less physical pain." After saying that, Bai Songyan shouted, once again striking a palm at Xiao Chen from afar, launching an attack with martial qi. It was not that Bai Songyan did not want to fight in close combat, but he felt that Xiao Chen was a bit strange and unpredictable, with endless tricks up his sleeves. If he was too close, it was very likely that he would be accidentally hit like Tang Yuanqing just now. So he would rather stand far away, first to ensure his own safety, and then choose to use the laser ray device and the silk net to control Xiao Chen. Seeing that Bai Songyan's palm wind was getting closer and closer, Xiao Chen's mind suddenly flashed, and he decided to do a more risky experiment. He first circulated his martial qi to protect his body, to ensure that he would not be too seriously injured, and then when Bai Songyan's palm wind arrived in front of him, he also fiercely struck a palm. Boom! With a loud bang, Xiao Chen's yuan qi and Bai Songyan's palm wind collided heavily under the silk heavenly net. Because Xiao Chen had deliberately delayed his attack, the collision of yuan qi and martial qi was equivalent to an explosion in front of his eyes. His internal organs were shaken to the point that they almost shifted. Although he held on and did not get blown away, the feeling of his qi and blood surging was also very uncomfortable. Pooh! After enduring for a while, Xiao Chen finally couldn't hold on any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. The thin thread around him only fluctuated slightly in this explosion. Not only did it not turn into ashes, it didn't even show any signs of breaking. You're not thinking of using the vibration of the explosion to break the silk net, are you? Bai Songyan, who was watching from afar, keenly judged Xiao Chen's thoughts. He smiled faintly and said, "If I had used all my strength to attack just now, perhaps your plan could have succeeded. But in that case, you would have died without a doubt. Exchanging your life for Jia Tuyao's disqualification would never do such a stupid thing. I didn't expect that you would see through my trick. It seems that this trick doesn't work. I have to think of another way." Although Xiao Chen said that he would not admit defeat, he was just saying it. In fact, he had no idea what to do at all. "I advise you not to waste your energy. Just be honest and admit defeat directly. Otherwise, with the silk heavenly net, you wouldn't even dare to move, and I can keep hitting you until you pass out. Anyway, this is still a win." Bai Songyan sneered, gathered his martial qi in his palm again, and asked, "How about it? Do you want to continue to suffer, or admit defeat obediently?" Xiao Chen clenched his fists and remained silent. His brain was quickly thinking about how to break the silk heavenly net, but no matter how hard he thought, he could not come up with any solution. It seemed that everything he had learned in the past could not be of any use in this situation. Below the stage, Jia Tuyao's face was filled with excitement, and he even wanted to cheer loudly. As for Jia Muzhen, his face was filled with anxiety. At the moment, everyone could see that Xiao Chen was at a disadvantage. He wanted to yell at Xiao Chen to give up, but he dared not to disturb the progress of the match. Although he was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, Jia Muzhen could only stare at Xiao Chen anxiously, hoping that he could be like before and produce another miracle at the most critical moment, turning the situation around. However, the most important thing was to preserve his life. Even if Xiao Chen admitted defeat right now, he would not have any complaints. Alas, Xiao Chen, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Don't you know how to use your brain? It seems that I have to help you solve this problem. Before Xiao Chen could come up with a solution, the elder heaven ancestor could not stand it anymore, and directly took over his body. Then I'd better learn your method. I can also take a break. Hearing the words of the elder heaven ancestor, Xiao Chen calmed down and immediately relaxed the control of his body. Then, he felt his vision suddenly go black, and when it became bright again, his primordial spirit was already in the sea of consciousness. Then watch carefully. The elder heaven ancestor shouted in a low voice, controlling Xiao Chen's body. He directly stretched out his hand, grabbed the surrounding silk, and gradually released waves of cold air from his palm, slowly freezing the silk. Ha ha ha. Xiao Chen, are you stupid? Are you trying to pull the silk by force? What? Bai Songyan saw Xiao Chen grabbing the silk, and at first, he was very sneering, thinking that Xiao Chen was crazy, and wanted to pull the rope at the risk of his whole hand being cut off. But when he saw a layer of white fog slowly emerging from Xiao Chen's palm, and spreading to the silk, he felt that something was wrong, and his face gradually changed. Not long after, the silk around Xiao Chen was all wrapped up by the white fog, and frozen into pieces of ice. Little bastard, you want to trap me with this broken thing? It's a joke. The elder heaven ancestor sneered, and gently pulled with his hand. With a few light snapping sounds, the ice wrapped around the silk broke, and directly fell on the arena, turning into snow water. No. Impossible. This silk is a product of ancient times, how could it be broken so easily? Bai Songyan was so surprised that he could not close his mouth, and could not believe what had happened in front of him. He relied on the laser firing device and the silk net to run amok in Jianghu, and he had never seen anyone who could break this special silk. He did not expect that Xiao Chen could destroy it so easily. Not far away, in the stands, a strange light flashed in Jia Jinyan's eyes, and he looked at Xiao Chen with a burning gaze. Obviously, he was very appreciative of his endless martial arts skills. Alright, the fun game ends here. I can't be bothered to waste any more time with you. Let's get serious next. Xiao Chen stretched his muscles and did not say anything else as he slammed his palm towards Bai Songyan. Chapter 1047. Thanks to the possession of the elder heaven ancestor, Xiao Chen's cultivation had increased by 1 level. The moment he rushed out, he revealed the strength of a level 2 venerable. Huh. You're also hiding your strength. Bai Songyan had yet to recover from his previous shock. Seeing this, he was shocked once again. He did not dare to be careless against an attack of the same level. He immediately circulated the martial qi in his body and fiercely waved his palm, forcibly meeting Xiao Chen's qi. Boom! The two qi violently collided with each other. The entire arena shook. Xiao Chen and Bai Songyan spat out blood at the same time and were sent flying. They fell heavily on the edge of the arena and did not move for a long time. It seemed that both of them were seriously injured. The judge, Uncle Gui, quickly ran over and checked their breathing. He found that both of them were still alive. However, Xiao Chen's injuries were more serious, and Bai Songyan's injuries were not so good either. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, he forced himself to sit up. Elder Heaven Ancestor, why did you withdraw part of your martial chi just now? Why didn't you just use your full strength to deal with him? Xiao Chen's primordial spirit asked in surprise. He felt that when the Elder Heaven Ancestor attacked, he secretly withdrew 20% of his martial chi. On the other hand, Bai Song Yan used 10% of his martial chi in a moment of desperation. With this, Xiao Chen's side was at a disadvantage, so he was a little puzzled. What do you know? If I didn't withdraw my martial chi, he would have been killed long ago. Wouldn't your previous efforts be in vain? Elder Heaven Ancestor said impatiently. Besides, I'm still maintaining the stability of the martial chi in your body. If I used my full strength, it would easily cause a backlash. But it seems that you are the one who is more seriously injured. How are you going to defeat him? Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, why don't we just admit defeat? We have enough points anyway. There's no need to fight to the death. It was not that Xiao Chen was afraid, but he felt that if he was injured too badly, Jia Huiyan and Jia Tia would take the opportunity to cause trouble. Without him, Jia Muzan might not be able to suppress them with his strength. Don't worry. You have quite a lot of essence stored in your body. I'll just borrow some of it. It just so happens that the remaining essence is more stable. Elder Heaven Ancestor spat out a mouthful of blood. He controlled Xiao Chen's body to stand up and said, but after this competition is over, you have to hurry up and raise your level. Otherwise, both of us will be finished. Xiao Chen nodded repeatedly in the sea of divine sense. He thought that after the competition was over, he would immediately go to the heavenly jade mine to practice in seclusion and break through as soon as possible. Otherwise, his cultivation would be too weak in the inner martial arts world, where venerables were everywhere. If they were not careful, they would fall into danger. Bai Song Yan also stood up at this time, wiped the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth, and said in a deep voice, I didn't expect you to be so sinister, knowing to hide your strength. Since I can't kill you today, then I might as well cripple you. If I let you continue, you will definitely become a threat to Jia Tuyao in the future. Humph. Little brat, how dare you say that you want to cripple my cultivation with your insignificant strength? Elder Heaven Ancestor retorted sarcastically. Then, he quickly extracted a part of the essence stored in the sea of divine sense, which instantly raised Xiao Chen's cultivation by half a level. Then, without hesitation, he raised his palm and slapped towards Bai Songyan's chest. You are actually at the peak of level 2 of the Venerable Realm. Bai Songyan, who was arrogant just now, was completely dumbfounded. However, he didn't have time to think too much at this moment. The great pressure was pressing down on him, and he had no choice but to brace himself and push out his palm with all his strength. Boom! A strong shock wave spread out from the arena, which directly sent Uncle Gue, who was standing on the edge of the arena, flying out. Those who were relatively close to the arena were also shaken to the ground. Wood chips and stones flew everywhere, and the whole arena was in chaos. Jia Muzan's face turned pale with fright. He wanted to rush into the arena, but he was afraid that the match was not over yet. So, he stood up from the ground and stood on his tiptoes to watch, but he could only see the thick smoke covering the entire arena. Jia Jinyan sat still, without any change in his expression. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry, but he looked mysterious. As the smoke finally dispersed, a motionless figure gradually emerged on the arena. Jia Muzan took off his dusty glasses, wiped them on his clothes, and then put them back on. After taking a closer look, he found that the figure was actually Xiao Chen. Except for Xiao Chen, there was no one else on the arena. Jia Muzan turned his head again and found that on the other side of the arena, Bai Song Yan was lying on the ground, twitching. His eyes were rolled up, and he was unconscious. His mouth and nose were constantly bubbling with blood. It seemed that his injuries were very serious, and it seemed that his life was in danger. Although Uncle Gue was sent flying, fortunately, he was not in the center of the explosion, so he was not hurt. At this time, he had already rushed back, ran to Bai Songyan's side, and checked his pulse. His expression slightly changed, but he still stood up and reported loudly, Bai Songyan is still alive, but 80% of his tendons and veins are broken. Even if he is cured, he will be a useless person for the rest of his life. After reporting, Uncle Gue took out a pill from his pocket, leaned over and put it into Bai Songyan's mouth, then stood up and ordered the guards to carry him away to rest. Seeing Bai Songyan being carried away, Jia Tiao was very angry and shouted, "Grandpa, this time, Xiaochen broke the rules, right? If Uncle Gue didn't save him in time, Bai Songyan would definitely die this time. And our Jia family will inevitably become enemies with his school. Jia Muzin is so reckless, I think he should be disqualified. Tuyao, don't make trouble." Jia Jinyan said in a low voice. Although Bai Songyan almost lost his life, Xiaochen indeed won the game with his own strength. Therefore, he didn't break the rules in this game, and he can get points. After saying this, Jia Jinyan slightly sighed in his heart. Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao were the two direct descendants that he especially valued, and he valued them much more than Jia Muzin, who had run away from home. He didn't expect that they would always like to play this kind of trick to suppress their opponents. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. This is still not breaking the rules? Jia Tiao's expression was both sullen and helpless. He felt that he had suffered a great loss this time. In order to teach Xiaochen a lesson, he almost lost Bai Songyan's life. Not only did he lose the game, he also had to face the anger and blame of his school. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Jia Tiao, don't play this old trick. Even if you don't get tired of it, I do. If you have the guts, come up here and have a fight with me, I'll play with you anytime. Xiao Chen's face didn't look too good, and he coldly mocked. Who wants to fight with you? Later, when we have to fight with outsiders, you'll have a hard time. How could Jia Tiao dare to fight against Xiao Chen, who was at the peak of the second layer of the Venerable Realm? Chapter 1048. Then don't talk nonsense. Although the expression on Xiao Chen's face didn't change, he was secretly relieved. Just now, he had already suffered internal injuries, and he had activated his power to defeat Bai Songyan. Now, he was almost exhausted. If Jia Tuyao was really irritated and insisted on fighting against him, he might be able to knock him down with only one finger. However, Jia Tuyao was also a coward. He didn't dare to challenge Ji Hao at all. After adjusting his breathing for a while, Xiaochen recovered a portion of his strength. Then, he cupped his hands at Jia Jinyan and asked without batting an eyelid, "Old Patriarch, I seem to have already challenged all the participants. The competition should be over, right? Can you announce the results now?" "Yes, the challenge competition is over. Jia Muzin's team is the final winner." Jia Jinyan nodded and continued, "Since this is the second to last round of the competition, the next round will be the final external competition. I will announce the total results of all the participating disciples so that everyone can have an idea of what's going on." The few young men who had been whispering to each other immediately shut their mouths and looked at Jia Jinyan on the stand. In fact, they all had a rough idea about the results, but it was different when it was announced by the family head. Jia Jinyan paused for a while, looked down at the table and read, "The current results, Jia Muzin is in first place, with 13 points, Jia Tiao and Jia Renzhong are tied for second place, with 5 points each, Jia Huiyan is in third place, with 3 points, Jia Shilei and Jia Raijing are in second place, with 2 points each, Jia Tsugue and Jia Shougue are in third place." After reading the results, Jia Jinyan looked around and found that all the young men had different expressions. Some were angry, some were full of confidence, and some were dejected and had lost their fighting spirit. Seeing everyone's expression, Jia Jinyan knocked on the table and said, "Well, this morning's internal competition is over. Everyone can take a break, and later we will draw lots to randomly decide the opponents of the external competition in the afternoon. I hope that the young men with lower points can keep working hard, and those with higher points, don't be too proud, keep your good results." Although he said so, Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao were still shocked. They knew that Jia Muzin's points were higher than theirs, but they didn't expect it to be so much higher. 13 points. How could this be possible? How did he get it? Wasn't the difference too great? both of them found it hard to believe. Perhaps seeing through everyone's thoughts, Jia Jinyan simply gestured for his trusted aide to operate the computer and list out the points obtained by everyone in each match. He made an electronic file and then displayed it on the big screen. Looking at the total score, although Jia Huiyan and Jia Tia were still not convinced, they had no way to vent their anger. Therefore, they could only hope that this afternoon's match could help them turn over a new leaf. At this time, Jia Muzin did not have the time to be happy. He had already noticed that Xiao Chen's complexion was not quite right. As soon as his grandfather's voice fell, he hurriedly ran into the ring and helped Xiao Chen down. As he walked, he asked worriedly, "How are you? I was almost scared to death just now. In fact, we have accumulated a lot of points, so you didn't have to work so hard." "I'm fine, I can still hold on." Xiao Chen comforted him, then shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "But I'm afraid I can't participate in this afternoon's match. More importantly, we still don't know how the points will be calculated in the external matches. If we don't participate in the match, and Jia Huiyan or Jia Tuyao get a high score, we will suffer a great loss." While Jia Jinyan was talking, Xiao Chen adjusted his breath while calling Elder Heaven Ancestor in his mind for a few times. However, he found that Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't respond at all, as if Elder Heaven Ancestor had fallen into a deep sleep. At the moment, his physical condition was quite bad. Even if his external injuries could be healed before the match, his power wouldn't be restored so quickly. Therefore, Xiao Chen couldn't help but feel a bit worried. "Forget it, it's fine. I, Jia Muzin, can already die without regret, being able to make friends with you. As for the position of family head, I don't care about that position at all. Whoever wants to be the family head can be it." Jia Muzin waved his hand and said with a resolute face, "Anyway, no matter who my opponent is this afternoon, I will give up the match. You take care of your injuries, and don't participate in the match for me anymore." Jia Muzin felt very guilty. He would rather not be the family head of the Jia family than let Xiao Chen take risks. As the saying goes, one would do anything for one's brother. For him, Xiao Chen would even lose his life. Such a sincere brother, how could he let him put himself in danger again? "What nonsense are you talking about? It wasn't easy to get to this point, how can you just give up like that? You don't need to worry about it, just leave the drawing of lots to me." Xiao Chen waved his hand, found a chair, sat down and continued to adjust his breath. Meanwhile, he was thinking about how to let Jia Muzin draw a weak opponent. What made Xiao Chen depressed was that he wasn't familiar enough with the situation of the inner pugilistic world. Although he knew how to influence the results of the drawing of lots, he couldn't find a suitable opponent. After all, with Jia Muzin's strength, it was really not easy to find an evenly matched opponent in the inner pugilistic world. Moreover, he didn't know what level the people in the inner pugilistic world were at. Even if the name list came out, he could only rely on luck. Moreover, besides Jia Muzin, Xiao Chen was still thinking about finding an opponent for Jiaranzhong. He had helped him lay the foundation for so much. Now that it was the last match, Xiao Chen didn't want to fail miserably. He had to help Jiaranzhong win the position of elder in one fell swoop. Everyone should have rested enough, right? After a while, Jia Jinyan stood up and said loudly, "Next, let's begin the random drawing of lots for the outer competition in the afternoon." Jia Jinyan gave a look to his confidant beside him. That confidant nodded, tapped a few times on the keyboard, and then pressed the left mouse button. Soon, the names of Jia Muzin and the other contestants appeared on the left side of the big screen, lined up in a row. Not long after, the names of other sex candidates appeared on the originally blank right side. After the two columns of names stayed for a while, they began to move up and down, randomly combining. "I think everyone has seen it just now. Your opponents are all young talents that the Jia family has invited from the inner pugilistic world. Every one of them has been strictly screened. Regardless of age or strength, they are about the same as you. Therefore, there won't be a problem of too big a difference in strength to ensure the fairness of the competition." Jia Jinyan explained indifferently. Xiao Chen squinted at the names on the big screen. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He discovered two very familiar names. With a thought, Xiaochen immediately released his mental strength and used his divine sense to find the hiding position of Jia Quincy outside the martial arts arena. He directly used his mental strength to control him and made him quickly tap a few times on the notebook, secretly changing the fighting combination. Chapter 1049. What happened? After Xiaochen successfully modified it, he immediately withdrew his mental power control. Jia Kusu blinked and gradually regained his consciousness. He looked at the laptop in front of him and was very inexplicable. What did I just do? Why can't I remember it all of a sudden? However, Jia Kusu didn't have time to recall. He quickly operated the computer and found a weaker opponent for Jia Huiyan. He didn't bother to modify the rest. He hit the enter key and sent the result out. The big screen quickly showed the match list. Jia Muzin was stunned after a glance. He said with a stunned face, "Why am I fighting against young Master Xing? Isn't the difference in strength a bit too big? Where is that Shi Yuchuan who is fighting against everyone from? I've never heard of him. Not bad, right? I specially arranged this young Master Xing for you. As for that Shi Yuchuan, don't bother about him. He's just a weakling." As Xiaochen treated his injuries, he admired his masterpiece. Coincidentally, he knew these two people in the martial arts world, so he could arrange for them to enter. That young Master Xing is at the level of Demon King great perfection. How can I beat her? Jia Muzin was suddenly depressed. If the opponent was weaker, then there was still room for him to score points. He didn't expect to get a young Master Xing. He really didn't know what Xiaochen was thinking. What's there to worry about? With me here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Xiaochen shrugged. It might be a bit difficult to deal with others, but he was extremely experienced in dealing with little Miss Xing. He could easily catch a snail with 3 fingers. Jia Muzin misunderstood and thought that Xiaochen was going to play for him again. He quickly stopped him. "No. You're so seriously injured. Aren't you joking with your life if you go on stage? Besides, Grandpa hasn't announced the rules of the game yet. I don't know if foreign aid can go on stage. Maybe the afternoon game can only be played by the disciples of the Jia family? Don't worry, I won't go up." Xiaochen could not help but laugh when he saw Jia Muzin's nervous expression. "At most, I'll just stand below the stage and threaten her. I don't believe that damn transvestite would really dare to make a move on you." Jia Muzin nodded. "It's hard to say. I heard that in order to invite these external guests, the Jia family has prepared generous rewards. As long as you win the invitational tournament, you can get a lot of high-quality spiritual jades. If young Master Xing becomes envious of those spirit jades, wouldn't I?" Jia Muzin said with a bitter face. Jia Muzin had no intention of blaming Xiaochen. But now that the match between him and young Master Xing was set in stone, it was too late for regrets. It seemed like he could only admit defeat. "Don't worry, if this little girl sees me, she absolutely won't dare to do anything to you." Xiaochen patted Jia Muzin's shoulder and said without a care in the world. Jia Muzin did not know where Xiaochen's confidence came from. He could only smile bitterly and nod his head. Although he had complete trust in Xiaochen, words were no guarantee. The temptation of the spiritual jades was too great. Who knew what the result would be? Therefore, Jia Muzin's heart was still a little unsettled. The name list has been announced. Now, everyone should know who you will be fighting against, right? If you have nothing to do, you can go eat and rest. At 2:00 in the afternoon, gather at the martial arts hall on time to start the external competition. Jia Jinyan announced with a dignified face. He whispered a few words to his trusted aides, then hurriedly left the martial arts hall and went to the study room to prepare for the calculation of points for the afternoon competition. Jia Jinyan's trusted aides immediately took out their mobile phones and notified those who came to participate in the competition. At the same time, they arranged for people to immediately pick them up and bring them to the Jia family. Jia Huiyan and Jia Tiao's expressions were quite relaxed. It seemed like they had been assigned a more suitable opponent. Although the difference in points between them and Jia Muzin was relatively large, the two of them agreed that as long as they could win the afternoon competition, they might have a chance to take the position of the successor. Moreover, seeing that Jia Muzin's opponent was young Master Xing, who was much weaker than him, and Xiaochen seemed to be injured in the battle with Bai Songyan in the morning, it was estimated that he would not be able to participate in the competition again. Jia Huiyan and Jia Tiao both felt that he would definitely lose the afternoon competition. After a hurried lunch, Xiaochen adjusted his breathing for a while and finally recovered a lot from his injuries. He was not too worried about the external competition in the afternoon. At the moment, his most important task was to find spiritual jades as soon as possible to promote himself. Otherwise, once he encountered danger, it would be very troublesome. At present, Xiaochen's state could be said to be extremely poor. After the battle with Bai Songyan, the elder heaven ancestor was seriously injured and directly entered a state of dormancy. Moreover, the flame of the underworld and in Xiaoma had not yet woken up. His trump card was basically useless. The only person who could barely help him was probably Qing Menjing. In fact, what puzzled Xiaochen the most was why the flame of the underworld and in Xiaoma had been dormant for such a long time this time. In the past, if they were injured, they would basically wake up in a month. This time, it seemed that it had been nearly half a year, but these two still had not moved. However, after careful consideration, Xiaochen roughly understood the reason. In order to prepare for breaking through to the nascent soul stage, the vitality in his body was stored by the elder heaven ancestor. Presumably, the flame of the underworld and in Xiaoma had not been able to absorb enough vitality, so they could not recover from their dormancy. At 2:00 in the afternoon, everyone gathered in the martial arts arena on time. The people who were invited to participate in the competition from other sects had also arrived. Many acquaintances were chatting at the scene. There was no atmosphere of a competition at all. Instead, it was more like they were here to play. Some of the participants were whispering, saying that they were following the instructions of the sect or family elders. There seemed to be a reward for coming to the competition this time, but they did not know what it was. A small portion of the participants were interested in the rewards. However, the majority of the honored guests were indifferent. The people who were invited were basically the proud sons and daughters of their clans or the rising stars of their sections. They possessed outstanding strength and talent. Normally, their sects or clans would provide them with heavenly materials and earthly treasures. If it wasn't for some extremely precious reward, it wouldn't have attracted their attention. All participants, please be quiet. Master Jia has begun to announce the rules of the competition. Uncle Gui received Jia Jinyan's instructions and stood up and said loudly. Although it was slower than the silence in the morning, the noise in the arena gradually subsided. Everyone looked at Jia Jinyan, wanting to hear what the rules of the competition were. Listen up, Jia family disciples. Jia Jinyan said in a loud voice, in this external competition, only you can participate in the competition. The external helpers you have invited are not allowed to have any force assistance. They can only give tactical advice and cheer on the spot. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition and all your points will be deducted. Chapter 1050. At this point, Jia Jinyan looked at Xiaochen meaningfully, as if warning him to restrain himself and not to play any tricks like he did in the morning. Although Xiaochen felt Jia Jinyan's gaze, he did not pay much attention to it. He focused on identifying where Xing and Shi Yuchuan were. After confirming that both of them had arrived, he was relieved. Jia Jinyan looked at him and retracted his gaze. He continued, this competition will end when it is determined. If the Jia family wins, they will get 3 points. If not, 3 points will be deducted. If the other sects or families win, they will get the corresponding amount of spiritual jades as compensation. If they lose, they will only get a small portion of the spiritual jades as compensation. Is everyone clear? Understood. The audience replied in unison. However, the expressions of those who were invited to participate were no longer as calm as before. Their mentality had undergone a subtle change. They did not expect the reward to be spiritual jades. Originally, the guests thought that no matter how powerful they were, it would only be some heaven and earth treasures or spiritual weapons. Therefore, they had a nonchalant attitude and planned to just exchange some pointers. However, when they found out that the Jia family was actually giving out spiritual jades as a reward, they were instantly energized. Spiritual jades were even more awesome than heaven and earth treasures. They could not be obtained even if they wanted to. Now that they had such a rare opportunity, they had to give it their all and get a few more. Martial arts sects never forbade the young disciples from exchanging pointers with each other. Instead, they encouraged them to do so. After all, exchanging pointers with each other was more beneficial to the growth of the disciples. The only rule for exchanging pointers was that one could not use too much force or cause death or disability. Otherwise, it would not be a simple exchanging pointers. Not only would a good seedling be destroyed, it would definitely cause unnecessary conflicts between sections. If anyone has any questions, you can raise them now. Jia Jinyan was a little worried and repeated, "If we wait until the competition starts, then we will assume that it is to solve the rules. There will be no additional explanations." "Old Master Jia, I would like to ask a question." A familiar voice sounded. Shao Chen looked up and saw that it was Xing, who came to participate in the competition. She stepped forward and cupped her hands. "So it's young Master Xing. Please tell me, I will definitely answer." Jia Jinyan obviously knew young Master Xing. At this moment, he was stroking his beard with a smile. Young Master Xing was still dressed like a man. He bowed to Jia Jinyan and said, "Would like to ask, if we outsiders win, how many spirit jades can we get? If you lose, how much will be deducted?" Hee, we naturally welcome guests who are invited to participate in the competition. If the guest can win the competition, he or she will receive 20 pieces of spiritual jades as a reward. If he or she loses, they will only receive half of it. Jia Jinyan smiled and patiently explained. "Okay, thank you for your guidance, old Master Jia." Little Miss Xing nodded her head in understanding and retreated back into the crowd. She lowered her head as if she was thinking about something. The honored guest's expression became even hotter. 20 pieces of spirit jades. Even if he lost, he would still get 10 pieces of spiritual jades. Usually, it was a little difficult for his own sect to obtain a piece of spiritual jade. The Jia clan was actually so generous. This trip was worth it. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one else came out to speak, Jia Jinyan gestured to his trusted aide and said in a deep voice, "If no one has any more questions, then the competition officially starts now." His trusted aide looked at the matchup list and announced loudly, "The first match, Jia Tuyao against Yunnan Dun. Both of you, please get on the stage immediately and prepare for the match." Pooh. Hearing this name, Shao Chen almost choked. He looked at Jia Tuyao and another young man walking on the stage with a strange expression. He turned to Jia Muzin and said with a smile, "I thought only your Jia clan's names were strange. I didn't expect that the Yu clan would have a Yunnan Dong. I really don't understand the inner martial arts sects and clans. What are they thinking when they name their clans? This. I heard that the Yu clan's third-generation disciples must have North, South, East, and West in their names, just like the Jia clan's metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. I heard that this is how the clan's genealogy is arranged." Jia Muzin spread his hands and also didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In fact, he felt that his own name was already considered normal. Those canine mantis and hand mantis were completely incomprehensible to him. So that's how it is. I was wondering why they didn't choose a more valuable name. Shao Chen muttered. He looked towards the stage and suddenly cursed, F***ck, how is this a fight? These two people have colluded with each other, haven't they? They are really playing us like monkeys. On the stage, Jia Tuyao and Yunnan Dun were punching and kicking each other. Their movements were so light that they didn't even have the slightest bit of strength. It was completely a fight that was even more fake than a street performer. This is very normal. They are good friends. I guess they have already discussed this before the fight started. Yunnan Dun will definitely lose on purpose so that Jia Tuyao can get 3 points. Later on, Yunnan Dun will ask Jia Tuyao for some spirit jades as compensation. Jia Muzin wasn't surprised at all and said with a face full of disdain. Sure enough, as he said, after the two hypocritically exchanged a few rounds of attacks, Yunnan Dun probably felt that they had created enough momentum, so he purposely revealed a flaw. Jia Tuyao seized the opportunity to slap Yunnan Dun with his palm. Yunnan Dun fell to the ground with an "ah" and directly admitted defeat. Jia Tuyao smoothly won the fight. What disgusted Xiaochen the most was that after the fight, these two people still seemed to appreciate each other. Jia Tuyao helped Yunnan Dun up from the ground and asked about his well-being in an especially gentlemanly manner. After that, they cupped their fists and saluted each other, then walked down the stage in a natural manner, as if nothing had happened. Xiaochen rolled his eyes, thinking, "Aren't you trying to show your chastity? There are not many fools on the scene. Who can't tell? Do you think others are fools or retarded?" The second match was between Jia Huiyan and a disciple of the Tang clan. Needless to say, this match was originally secretly arranged by Jia Tsugui, so Jia Huiyan easily got 3 points. On the surface, that disciple of the Tang clan had a look of regret, as if he was very regretful that he didn't get 20 pieces of spiritual jades. However, after he left the stage, he immediately put his arm around Jia Huiyan's shoulder and called him brother, as if they were a family. Next, Jia Muzin will fight against young Master Xing. The two of you, please come up the stage and get ready. Below the stage, Xiao Chen and the others were still in a daze as they chatted. However, Uncle Gui, who was in the arena, stared at the two boring matches. He nearly fell asleep. Even when he announced the participants for the next match, his voice sounded weak. "Xiao Chen, I'll go up the stage." Jia Muzin was about to turn his head and tell Xiao Chen, but he saw that Xiao Chen was walking straight towards the stage. Jia Muzin was immediately confused. What is Xiao Chen going to do? Aren't foreign helpers not allowed to participate in the competition? Chapter 1051. Wahahaha. Hey, isn't this the lady boy? We meet again. What a coincidence. Xiao Chen didn't treat himself as an outsider. He walked to the side of the arena and greeted Xing, who was preparing to enter the arena. "Ah. Xiao Chen. What are you doing here?" Xing blinked her eyes in surprise. She didn't pay attention to the people from the Jia family. Now that she saw Xiao Chen suddenly appear in front of her, she was obviously surprised. Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao were originally chatting with each other, but when they heard Xiao Chen's words, they immediately turned their heads and stared at Xiao Chen's every move. They were ready to report him to Jia Jinyan if he dared to do anything to threaten Miss Xing. "Oh, isn't this Jia Muzin who is preparing to be the successor of the Jia family? I just dropped by to help him with a small matter." Xiao Chen walked towards Xing enthusiastically. He kept saying, "Ha ha ha, it's a small world. I didn't expect to meet you here. How are you? How have you been recently?" Along with the greetings, Xiao Chen had already walked in front of Xing. He grabbed her hand and pretended to be affectionate. He sighed in his heart that the skin on this girl's hand was really soft. Xing frowned slightly. She subconsciously wanted to pull her hand out, but Xiao Chen held it firmly. She couldn't break free for a while. Although she was very unwilling, she couldn't figure out whether Xiao Chen was pretending to be intimate or really enthusiastic. It wasn't good for her to directly turn hostile. She could only say in a low voice, Don't mess around. This is the Jia family of the internal martial arts world. Do you think you are still in the secular world?" "What? What are you talking about? My ears aren't good. I can't hear you clearly." Although Xiao Chen said this, he still tactfully let go of her hand. Xing rubbed the back of her hand. She could still feel Xiao Chen's warmth on it. Her little face flushed red. At this moment, except for Jia Muzin, everyone else looked at this scene in surprise. Xiao Chen actually held a man's hand? Furthermore, his actions were so natural and intimate. Could it be that this fellow had some sort of special hobby? Xiao Chen was oblivious to all the surprised and probing gazes. He continued to smile evilly at Miss Xing. Oh right, do you still remember that Wu Zhifei? It's fun, isn't it? Speaking of which, I've never seen a transvestite fly before. Why don't you try flying today? I don't know what you are talking about. I came to the Jia clan to participate in the competition. Don't talk nonsense. Lady Xing's face was still flushed red as she made up excuses. This was the first time she had been taken advantage of by a man. The strange feeling of being held by a man lingered for a long time. Seeing that the two of them seemed to be chatting in full swing, Jia Huiyan finally couldn't stand it anymore. Although he didn't know what Xiao Chen's intention was, he guessed that it was definitely not something good. He simply stood up and shouted, "Xiao Chen! What do you mean by that? Young Master Xing is an honored guest invited by grandfather, you cannot be rude to him." "That's right, can't we chat after the competition is over?" Jia Tuyao also responded in a lukewarm tone, "Why do you have to waste other people's time? Don't tell me you want to threaten young Master Xing so that Jia Muzin can win without a fight? Oh, aren't the two of you too conspiratorial? I originally just wanted to catch up with an old friend. Since the two young masters Luther don't agree, then forget it." Xiao Chen innocently spread out his hands and threw a meaningful smile at Lady Xing. "Young Master Transvestite, I'll say one last thing. Be careful of people flying in the sky." After he finished speaking, Xiao Chen turned around and leisurely returned to the spectator's stand. Lady Xing stared at Xiao Chen's back. In her mind, she couldn't help but recall the scene of Ma Zhifei falling from a height of more than 10 stories and directly becoming a pile of mud. Hiss. Lady Xing couldn't help but shiver. She naturally understood the meaning of Xiao Chen's hint, but she was a little hesitant. She didn't know if she should continue to participate in the competition. After all, compared to spiritual jades, her life was more important. This Xiao Chen was too strange. Not only had his strength skyrocketed, but he also had all kinds of strange moves. Lady Xing was a little scared. "Young Master Xing, you don't need to pay attention to that Xiao Chen. He's always this crazy, and his words are always random. Just go on the stage and compete. If he really dares to disrespect you, let alone the Open Heaven sect, even the Jia family will not let him off easily." Jia Tuyao saw that young Master Xing seemed to be a little scared, so he hurriedly came up and comforted him. What a joke, he was hoping that young Master Xing would beat Jia Muzin up so that he could vent his anger. How could he back off? "Oh. I'm fine." Lady Xing's body shook, and she came back to her senses. Although she was still a little worried, looking at the expectant audience and Jia Tuyao who was standing beside her, Lady Xing was afraid that she would be laughed at by others if she backed out of the competition. She could only take a deep breath, pluck up her courage, and walk up to the stage. "Huh, young Master Xing, how are you? I didn't think that we would meet again. Please show mercy." At this time, Jia Muzin was already standing on the stage. He cupped his hands towards Lady Xing and said with a smile. Jia Muzin was actually a little nervous. Just now, after seeing Xiao Chen chatting for so long, he thought that he could scare Lady Xing. He didn't expect that she would still come up to the stage. It seemed that Xiao Chen's plan didn't work. What did you say?" Lady Xing was stunned for a moment, and asked blankly. She was afraid that she would be plotted against at any time, so her attention was focused on Xiao Chen. She didn't hear what Jia Muzin said at all. After asking this question, she didn't care about Jia Muzin's answer, and turned her head to look at Xiao Chen. It would have been better if she didn't look, but when she looked, she felt even more guilty. She saw that Xiao Chen had found a human-shaped doll out of nowhere. He chuckled and casually threw it into the air. Then, he let the doll fall to the ground with a plop. Then, with a face full of regret, he sighed and said, a beautiful transvestite girl died just like that. So pitiful, so pitiful. It really scared this Bao Bao to death. Looking at this scene, Lady Xing couldn't help but be angry and flustered. She felt that Xiao Chen was really too despicable. This hint was too obvious, wasn't it? The key point was that after Xiao Chen muttered to himself, he even winked at Lady Xing. Then, he picked up the doll on the ground, broke off its head and limbs, and casually threw it on the ground. He then muttered, "TSK, TSK, so pitiful. It's broken into pieces. I can't even recognize its beautiful face. Young Master Xing. Are you ready, please? Can I attack now?" Jia Muzin asked tentatively. In the end, Lady Xing didn't move at all. She didn't even reply. Instead, she stared at a certain place outside the stage with a face full of terror. Jia Muzin was a little puzzled. He also turned his head to take a look. He discovered that Xiao Chen was standing there, staring at the empty ground and muttering to himself. He didn't know what he was talking about. Chapter 1052. In fact, Xiao Chen just made an illusion in front of Chick Xing. There was no humanoid puppet at all. He relied on his acting skills to intimidate her. It seemed that the effect was quite good. Chick Xing bit her lower lip and thought carefully for a while. If I really win the competition this time, I will definitely offend Xiao Chen. The consequences are absolutely unimaginable. This man is a madman. God knows what he will do next. At that time, let alone 20 pieces of spiritual jades, I might even be disfigured and die. Seeing Jia Muzin's puzzled expression, Miss Xing took a deep breath and unwillingly said, "Jia Muzin, you've won this match. I admit defeat." After she spoke, she nodded towards Uncle Gui and repeated herself. Jia Muzin was slightly startled, but he naturally wouldn't ask for the reason. He just nodded politely and accepted the victory with a smile. He knew that it must be Xiao Chen's threat just now. Otherwise, how could Chick Xing, who was at the Demon King Great Perfection realm, admit defeat so easily? Hearing that young Master Xing actually admitted defeat, there was an uproar in the audience. The people from other sects suddenly exploded. They began to discuss and point. They didn't know what was going on with young Master Xing. Why did he suddenly admit defeat? Although they were discussing, there was a young man in the group who had an expression of understanding and rejoicing. He thought to himself that it was fortunate that he wasn't competing with Jia Muzin. Otherwise, he would definitely admit defeat. This person was Shi Yuchuan. In fact, he discovered that Xiao Chen was present a long time ago. Originally, he wanted to make connections everywhere, but he was forced to hide in the crowd. He didn't dare to be too ostentatious. He was afraid that after Xiao Chen saw him, he would find trouble with him. Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao almost exploded with anger. When Jia Jinyan announced the rules of the competition, they knew that they could no longer get the position of heir. After all, the score gap was too big. However, seeing young Master Xing and Jia Muzin fighting, they were still overjoyed. They only hoped that young Master Xing would teach Jia Muzin a lesson. It would be best if he could beat him until he couldn't even take care of himself. No matter how much he thought about it, he would never have predicted that the other party would give up on the competition. But if they really wanted to find out the reason, they could only find out that Xiao Chen and young Master Xing had chatted for a while before the competition, and even held hands with each other. It seemed like they were really just exchanging pleasantries, and did not use force to threaten young Master Xing. Thus, they could not use this matter to nitpick, or else they would definitely be ridiculed by Jia Jinyan again. After little Miss Xing finished speaking, she angrily stomped her feet. Hearing the buzzing discussions below the stage, she no longer cared about her face. She quickly jumped off the stage and left the martial arts practice field. Finding a corner, she took out her phone and quickly dialed a number. She planned to report the matter of Xiao Chen to the sect. "Little Xing? Aren't you participating in the competition at the Jia clan?" Why do you have the time to call me? After the call went through, elder son asked with a puzzled expression. Elder son, it's like this. I found Xiao Chen in the Jia family. According to him, he should be here to help Jia Muzin seize the position of the successor to the Jia family head. Therefore, I immediately gave up the competition and wanted to report to you as soon as possible. Little Lady Xing quickly explained. What? Xiao Chen is in the Jia family? Elder son was also a little surprised. He quickly asked, other than Jia Muzin, is there anyone else by his side? I'm not too sure about this. I only saw him just before the competition. For the time being, I didn't find any other companions. Little Lady Xing recalled and said. Oh. How about this? You stay in the Jia family and secretly monitor Xiao Chen's movements. I will immediately report this situation to the sect leader and let him make a decision. Elder son made a prompt decision and instructed. Ah. Little Lady Xing was a little dumbfounded. But I will be leaving after the competition ends. I can't possibly stay in the Jia family for a long time, right? Otherwise, Xiao Chen will definitely suspect me. Moreover, the Jia family might not agree to it. Elder son, do you think? Little girl Xing was extremely depressed. Elder son only needed to say a few words. How could it be so easy to stay? She didn't have any excuse. Why should she stay in the Jia family's house and refuse to leave? Can't you think of something yourself? For example, stay and observe, or have dinner before leaving. You don't need me to remind you about such a small matter. I really don't know what else you can do. Elder son didn't wait for little Lady Xing to finish and interrupted her impatiently. All right, that's enough. I have to hurry and report to the sect leader. Wait for my news. Little Lady Xing was about to reply when she heard a click sound from the phone. Elder son had directly hung up the phone. Little Lady Xing shook her head helplessly and put away her phone. She turned around unwillingly and walked back. In her heart, she cursed Xiao Chen a few hundred times. Damn Xiao Chen. Stinky Xiao Chen. Of all the times you could have appeared, why did you have to appear now? You caused me to be scolded again. What a jinx. My nemesis. Look, Xiao Chen. That young Master Xing is back again. What happened to her just now? Why did she run away as if she was possessed? Did you do something good? At this moment, Jia Muzin had already returned to the stage and was standing together with Xiao Chen. He just happened to see little Lady Xing pouting and walking into the martial arts practice field with a face full of unwillingness. It was as if she had suffered a great injustice. He couldn't help but ask curiously. Xiao Chen turned his head and glanced at her. He curled his lips and said, "Oh, she is always so strange. I merely used a trick and she was so scared that she peed her pants. You don't have to care about her." That's right, who is the next match? When little Lady Xing was making a call outside the martial arts practice field, Xiao Chen had already used his divine sense to eavesdrop on the entire conversation. He didn't think much of it and didn't take it to heart. Right now, he only wanted to finish the match as soon as possible and quickly find a place to obtain some spiritual jades to level up. After all, he had already been targeted by the Awakening Heaven sect. Furthermore, the dust on the Jia clan's side had basically settled. Jia Muzin would definitely be able to smoothly ascend to the position of clan leader, so he didn't have to worry too much. Next, it will be Jia Renzhong versus Shi Yuchuan. Both of you, please come on stage and prepare. Without waiting for Jia Muzin's reply, Uncle Gui had already announced loudly on the stage. Shi Yuchuan flipped over and jumped onto the stage. He cupped his hands towards the surrounding people and introduced himself with a humble face. Hello everyone. I am the third-generation disciple of the Six Directions sect, Shi Yuchuan. Today, I am deeply honored to be able to be a guest of the Jia clan, one of the three major clans of the inner martial arts circle. I will definitely go all out in the next match. I wonder which of the Jia people's young masters will be my opponent. After talking for a while, Shi Yuchuan looked at the Jia clan disciples below the stage with a smile and waited for Jia Renzhong to stand up. I am Jia Renzhong. Ouch. Jia Renzhong immediately stood up and raised his hand. However, he had only raised his hand halfway before he put it down. His face revealed a painful expression. He felt that his arm was incomparably painful. It was obvious that the injury he received in the morning had not healed. Chapter 1053. Holding his arm, Jia Renzhong took a few deep breaths and walked towards the arena while enduring the pain. Shi Yuchuan couldn't hide the joy on his face. He could tell at a glance that Jia Renzhong was injured. Moreover, the injury was quite serious. He reckoned that Jia Renzhong's battle prowess would be greatly reduced. It seemed that he could easily obtain 20 pieces of spiritual jades this time. This way, he would be able to explain to the sect when he returned. The sect would definitely consider him as having made a great contribution. However, Shi Yuchuan's happiness didn't last long. The expression on his face immediately froze. This was because he saw Shao Chen, who was standing at the side, move and walk towards Jia Renzhong. He couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. Could it be that these two people knew each other? Renzhong, wait a moment. Shao Chen called out to Jia Renzhong, who was walking towards the arena. He lightly patted his shoulder and asked with concern, how are your injuries? If you can't hold on, don't force yourself. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, but if you get new injuries before your old ones have healed, it will be troublesome. Big brother Shao, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Jia Renzhong was overwhelmed by the favor and quickly replied, however, I must win this match. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of young Master Mu Sen's nurturing grace? Jia Renzhong was a little excited. Although he didn't know why Shao Chen was so worried about him and even specially came up to ask about his well-being, since he was Jia Muzin's external helper, he should be kind to him. Perhaps it was young Master Mu Sen who sent him to greet him. Oh, since you insist, then I can only wish you good luck. Shao Chen's eyes drifted and circled around Shi Yuchuan's body. Shaking his legs, he casually said, however, as far as I know, your opponent is also weak. With your strength, you will definitely be able to beat him up. Do your best, Mu Sen, and I will protect you. Big brother Shao, how do you know that he is weak? Jia Renzhong was confused and asked in puzzlement. If the opponent was really weak, then he might have been able to defeat him in the past. However, his injuries had not healed yet and he could only use less than 30% of his strength. The probability of winning was much lower. Don't ask so many questions. In short, if he dares to hit you, I'll let him have a good workout later. Shao Chen said the last sentence very loudly. Then, he glared at Shi Yuchuan in a threatening manner and made an expression that said, you know what I mean. Ugh. Okay. Jia Renzhong didn't know what to answer, so he could only agree. He didn't expect that Shao Chen would be so arrogant, daring to say such harsh words in public. However, Jia Renzhong didn't have time to think too much. He turned around and quickly walked up the ring, then saluted Shi Yuchuan. At this time, Shi Yuchuan's face was pale, and his back was cold and full of cold sweat. He thought he could win easily, but he didn't expect that Jia Renzhong was Shao Chen's friend. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Just a moment ago, he was still rejoicing that he didn't have to face Jia Muzin and was able to escape from Shao Chen's calamity. He didn't expect that he still couldn't escape. Moreover, Shao Chen's words just now were clearly meant for him to hear. How could he fight now? If he really beat up Jia Renzhong for the sake of 20 pieces of spiritual jades, he might be forced to stay in the Jia family forever. Shao Chen was a real lunatic, and he was capable of anything. During this period of time, he had heard many rumors. This guy even dared to kill Ma Lanxiao, and he had even killed several experts from the Yimin sect. How could he offend such a person? Hello, big brother Shi. I am Jia Renzhong from the Jia family. Please show some mercy later. After saluting, Jia Renzhong said courteously. Oh. Shi Yuchuan's mind was in a mess. He didn't know what Jiaranzhong was talking about, so he nodded his head in response. Uncle Gui saw that both of them were standing firmly on the ring, and that they were ready. He immediately waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let the match begin. Big brother Shi, please take this." Jiaranzhong shouted loudly, and displayed the strength of a martial general level 9. He quickly rushed toward Shi Yuchuan, raised his hand, and slapped his shoulder. Cough, cough. Xiao Chen suddenly cleared his throat loudly below the ring. Wait a minute. To everyone's surprise, Shi Yuchuan didn't retaliate. Instead, he took a few steps back and made a gesture to stop the match. Seeing this, Jiaranzhong hurriedly stopped his steps and looked at Shi Yuchuan in shock. He asked doubtfully, "Big brother Shi? What's wrong?" The pale Shi Yuchuan's eyes turned, and he stretched out his hand to press on his stomach. With a pained expression, he cried out miserably, "My stomach hurts so much." Jiaranzhong blinked his eyes, a little puzzled. Why did this person suddenly have a stomachache? Wasn't he fine just now? Shi Yuchuan was in for a penny, in for a pound. He squatted on the ground, holding his stomach, and grumbled, "Ouch, it hurts so much, ouch. It must be because the seafood I ate at noon wasn't cooked. If I had known, I wouldn't have been so greedy." Actually, it wasn't a stomachache. Just now, when Uncle Gui announced the start of the match and Xiao Chen cleared his throat, Shi Yuchuan realized that the match must not continue. Otherwise, Xiao Chen would definitely not let him go. Therefore, he immediately stopped the match, and then chose to pretend to have a stomachache as the reason. "Big brother Shi, are you okay? Do you want to rest for a while? When your stomach doesn't hurt anymore, we can continue the match." Seeing Shi Yuchuan's pale face and sweaty back, Jiaranzhong thought that he really had a stomachache, so he didn't doubt it. Instead, he asked with concern. No. I can't help it." Shi Yuchuan quickly waved his hand. His face was twisted, and he asked in pain, "May I ask where your bathroom is? I have to solve it quickly. This match, I give up." Just go out and turn right. Hurry up. You don't have to give up the match. I can wait for you to come back." Jiaranzhong pointed in the direction of the bathroom. Jiaranzhong felt that if Shi Yuchuan gave up the match, he would have an unfair advantage. Therefore, he insisted on waiting for him to come back and continue. "Thank you." Shi Yuchuan didn't have time to refuse again. He nodded casually, jumped off the arena, and ran out of the door. Then, he randomly chose a direction and left the Jia family as if he was escaping. "Hey, the bathroom is on the right. You went the wrong way." Jiaranzhong looked at Shi Yuchuan's back and shouted anxiously. He wanted to remind Shi Yuchuan, but he found that Shi Yuchuan still ran toward the gate of the Jia family, not knowing whether he didn't hear it or didn't want to care. "Old master, what do you think about this match?" Uncle Gui asked with a bitter face. Shi Yuchuan was obviously going to escape, but Jiaranzhong was so stupid that he didn't realize it. He thought he really wanted to go to the bathroom. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.